So let's call the meeting to order. Are there
Recording in progress.
any adjustments to the agenda? Why don't we pull the Aegis off of it? And Alice Peel sent an email just before the meeting with a correction to the minutes, so let's pull the minutes off of the agenda as well. Is there anything else that we want to do?
Where would you like to put those in the agenda instead?
How about just right before the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Other business.
Actually, why don't we do it before the work plan review, after the White House? Just because I think the work plan review is going to be more, take a little bit more time, more discussion.
There was 3 items in our packet that is not referenced in the agenda. And that's a hydraulic request form, a letter from Charlie Goodman, and a Vermont reappraisal letter. They were in our packet, but it was not addressed anyplace in the agenda that I saw.
Yeah, I don't think any action's going to be taken on any
That's
of
right.
them. Why don't we bring them up under the town administrator's report?
Yeah.
As long as we
That's
bring them
fine.
up, because I have
Yeah. we can talk about
concerns.
it there.
That's fair, Fred, thank you.
Okay, and then so as far as the June 23rd, July 14 meeting, July 14th's fine as long as we're within our, the legal requirements. Was there a lot of interest at the planning commission level, York, that you're aware of? I wasn't aware of any, so.
No, JB expects not many people to show up for it.
So what are folks, I don't know that we need to start early, although
I will not be present on that, for that meeting. That's the only,
why don't we just go with our regular meeting time, people, more predictable. Okay, so second item is public forum. Anybody here for public forum? Yes, sir.
Yeah, George Carpenter.
Come here.
My concern, I know
George.
you've been talking about it, is a bridge on Meadow Lane. And my concern, because it's gonna affect me and my crops, and it's gonna affect Dave DeFreeze, Ellen Neal. And then there's a lot of truck traffic. You figure just off my corn ground, hauling corn in the fall is 65 loads, depending on the size of the truck. And having to go to Moretown, turn around, it's just not good, because you got a couple tractor trailers, straight jobs. Then hauling manure, it's corn ground, you're roughly 1.5 loads per acre on corn ground, one load per acre on grass ground. So it varies depending on how much, so you're talking a lot, you're 150 acres. So my concern is the bridge, how to get across, when, and having to move all our traffic down into Moretown, and what it's gonna put on the village of Moretown. Because we have to turn around down at the town garage or somewhere down there. The smaller trucks will be able to take that little loop road. Neighbors aren't gonna like it. They don't even like it when I go through there once or twice a year.
What loop road?
Oh, it's Hurdle Road. There's a little loop there. It's town road. They let it grow in, so you go through, you're knocking brush pretty good. So,
We had it on the agenda the last meeting, George. I share your concern. We really wanted to do something to fix that bridge. We were hoping that, because of the amount of damage that appears to have been done after the storms last year, when it was, all the traffic was detoured by your place.
Yeah.
We think we have a good argument, and V-Trans has agreed, at least individuals in V-Trans, that maybe some FEMA funding would be available, but that's a very slow, arduous process we're finding, and we're looking for every other opportunity that we can find to either restore or replace it.
and my understanding is it's possible the bridge could be closed this year.
There
It's
have-
yearly, I understand that.
I've heard that rumor, that because of its condition, if V-Trans might come down, that last year they told us to lower the weight limit. I heard that they also said that the bridge by Trombley Road is in pretty tough condition, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, we're
Quickly.
already overloaded already.
What's that?
With bringing it down, we're overloaded.
Yeah, I know. Fred regularly texts pictures of large trucks going over the bridge.
Not just yours. Not just yours.
No, it's all, there's a lot of trucks.
Yeah, there's heavy truck traffic.
Yeah. So it's definitely on our radar, and we're scrambling to find a way to fund it quickly.
Yeah.
There's
What
also-
if they close it this year?
Brian,
Is there
if I
next
could just
month?
add,
Hold on a second, Alice, George is talking.
yeah, sorry.
I was just, as you come up with an alternate possibility of the covered bridge, putting a temporary bridge right beside it, it's a short span over that brook.
With the letter that we were gonna bring up under the town administrator's report, that one of the items that Fred referred to is from Charlie Goodman, who's suggesting that we replace the covered bridge, the Pine Brook Bridge, with a 2-lane road. I don't think we're ready for that, but.
I'm just thinking something temporary.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, even if you just, a couple cranes, set it off the side, set it up on pillars, and get a wide enough bridge to get our equipment across.
If it is closed, I think we have looked into the possibility or the necessity of getting a temporary bridge. Alice, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that I continue, and Keith Cubbin at CVRPC continue looking for funding and looking for grants. And we've been frustrated in that many of the federal grants we looked at, the door closed just as we were ready to send in the applications. But, you know, we're still on it. In fact, I'm meeting with Keith again tomorrow about a variety of things. And we always talk about the bridge.
But, I mean,
And
Just so folks know, Alice Peel is our representative of the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission and is on the Transportation Advisory Committee, and a lot of transportation budgeting and funding issues come through the Regional Planning Commission. Fred, did you?
Alice, when you're talking with Keith, would you ask him about the availability of bridges from the state, if they have
Yep.
any in
yeah,
reserve?
our other frustration has been getting District 6 to pay attention to us. So we're going to get much more aggressive about that. There is an inventory of temporary bridges, but keep in mind that we're in competition with other towns that are facing similar bridge problems.
If you could get some sort of feeling of
Yeah,
as the likelihood of getting a 70-footer to sit in there, that would be very helpful and
Yeah.
alleviate some concerns.
we'll be talking about it again tomorrow.
Thank you.
I also have another contact that might have some circuitous ways in to see what's going on.
So, yeah, it should have been dealt with a long time ago, but it really deteriorated quickly between the inspection 2 years ago and the one last July after the floods.
A lot of traffic bouncing across there.
Yeah.
It don't help, that's for sure.
And I don't know, yeah, we should talk to an engineer about anything temporary to boost it up. I walked across it the other day, it's not, I didn't feel good walking across.
Well, I was standing on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I was standing on it the other day, and a half-ton pickup truck unloaded went through, and the thing was vibrating. If I see you coming, I just run off the bridge as fast as I can.
Well, I always slow down for the bumps, thank God they fixed that one on the end, because every time the truck hits, a pickup or a car or a truck hits those little potholes, it'd be nice if they could put some pavement in the cement surface, and that'd stop the pickups and cars from bouncing.
Maybe after the inspection.
Yeah, don't wanna waste money, but just that cold tar packet.
Yeah.
Just slow down the bouncing, and it might help,
Yeah.
may not, but.
So, yeah, it's definitely, we're talking about our priorities for the board for the rest of the year tonight, and that's definitely high on the list.
I just meant to be here last week and the week before, or last couple meetings, and I was doing something else and got busy turning wrenches and forgot.
glad you made it this time.
Okay, thank you for listen to my
Yeah,
concerns and
thanks for
stuff.
coming down, George.
Thank you, George.
Because well, there's three of us it's gonna affect really bad, and it's gonna affect everybody in Moretown.
Plus emergency services. Emergency services getting to everybody on that route.
Yeah, the fire trucks won't be able to get through the covered bridge. We could always cut the top off.
Got a chainsaw?
Yep. I'm just kidding.
I know.
A crane, lift it out of the way, put a nice short temporary bridge in, you can almost build it yourself, you know?
So, yeah, Will, you've talked to York about made that same suggestion, right?
Yeah, you know, because on one side, you got the brook, you got trees you could remove and compensate the landowner somehow, temporary, have another bridge right beside it, or, you know, I don't know what the expense would be, but a couple cranes could lift that bridge right over and set it in the neighbor's field, put it on some cement blocks for a few years until the other bridge got repaired or put back in service. You know, it's a temporary, then you can make it so it's a photo thing, people go take pictures, you know, of the covered bridge, you know, temporarily. They'll be able to stand in there and won't have to wait for cars to get out of the way.
Any other, anybody else here for public comment?
I believe York has got us on the agenda, maybe, Fred?
For what item?
Butternut Hill.
Butternut
Or is
Hill.
that?
I don't have you guys on the agenda. But now would be a great time for you and Chip to talk if you'd like to. I mean, we do have a road update, but not specifically Hughes property. So now would be a great time, Hugh, if you're here to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if any news or anything through you, talking to you or whatever, and I don't know how much people are aware of it, but, that culvert up above me in my lifetime, and not that many years, it's plugged up 5 times. And it's the first time it's ever gone down from up above. There were like 8 or 10 foot roads that were missing. And it came over the bank. It's never done that before up high. It always goes down the road and went and back to my house. And it's washed my whole bank out. And it's really close to the septic system. Fred came up. I asked Fred, he called him, he came up. York came up and Josh came up. And I was just like wondering if you people were going to, I wanted to address it to you, see if you people had any concerns about it, if you were going to do anything to help.
We haven't discussed it as a board. I know that York and Josh were talking to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns to see what kind of resources might be available and looking into the liability issue of what the town's obligations are. I also sent, and I don't think he's had a chance to respond to it, there is a mitigation, it's a environmental mitigation grant program that we've used before for private landowners when there's a potential hazard for future flooding damage that provides 75% of the cost for some remediation work. We did it, it wasn't Butternut Hill, the condos kind of across from the Mad Bush. River House, I think we did some work that they had some problems and used that program for. So we are looking into it. York, do you have anything to add? Because you were following up on this.
I mean, there's some, I think I left you a voicemail about just, the passive is working through their, mechanisms of the what Hugh and I put together and filed to passive a few weeks ago, and that was good. They called, they said the expectation is low, but they are going through the process, and Josh and I talked to them again, and it was a good conversation. In terms of culverts, that's actively on our mind. Josh and I talk about it, and Charlie Goodman probably 2 or 3 times a week, and Alice as well, who's been helpful. So, I mean, trying to come up with a list of culverts that have to be replaced is, I mean, I don't have the expertise to really do it, so I have to trust those that do, and just keep learning as I go. And there's no doubt that Butternut Hill, I mean, Hugh has showed me photos from the years of there being issues. And so, I mean, it has to, clearly, we need to do work. And what that looks like and our timeline is difficult given how expensive culverts are. Josh and I have been looking into buying culverts and the price keeps going up. And then, yeah, and Hugh, I'm sorry, I haven't looked into what Brian mentioned, but that, I just took a note of it again, and I'll make sure I look into that, and then I'll send you and maybe Trip an email, if that would be good, if it looks like something that would be really possible. Does that sound reasonable?
Anything's reasonable, I'm willing to listen to anybody, but I do know that it's very, very close to my septic. And when this rain keeps going on, it's gonna go, and I do not have the money to fix that bank. And,
Yeah.
So there's
like,
a sense of urgency.
yeah, and also, I do know that since in 4 years, this is the third time that thing has done that. It's always gone down the road, you guys, fixed my road, the driveway and things like that, the side of my lawn, I mean. And, to my knowledge, I wish people would come up and walk around and look at it. I do know that York's been there, Fred's been there and everything, but I think the more that you people know, it's an emergency situation. If that septic cuts loose, it's very, very close to that tank, not the tank, but the dry well. And I go out and check it all the time. I got it measured off the stakes, so, the erosion. And it's gonna cut loose. And then it's gonna be a pickle. It's gonna be a totally, totally different ballgame. And, all I want is, I'm glad I came tonight so I could voice my opinion of it. I'm trying to be decent about it. I'm asking for some help and some attention. And that's in honesty, and that's what I'd like.
And could I just say two things here? One is, I want to go back and look. I think Department of Environmental Conservation has a homeowners program for septic system repair or improvement. I vaguely remember this, but I will go back and look up and see if they would be able to fund anything, especially if it's septic.
Yeah,
I can do that, and the other thing, I think maybe I'll bring up here, is that one of the things that I've been talking with Keith Cubbin at CVRPC about is that this year, Waitsfield is on the list for a culvert inventory program that V-Trans pays attention to. And what will happen is there'll be a on-the-ground person coming and looking at all the town-owned culverts and reporting on their condition. That goes into a Vermont's culverts database. One of the things I think would be really helpful is Keith can do a presentation on this application and this program. And what V-Trans looks for when they look at culverts, and what are the new sizing. I'm not sure their requirements, but recommended sizing requirements for culverts based on the types of rain storms we're getting now.
So that hasn't been done in the past, just out of curiosity?
There was one done several years ago, yes, it would be
Yes.
updated. And we upsize our culverts generally,
yeah.
as a rule, every time
Yeah.
something happens. And we replace one or they blow out, because it's just, they're carrying more and more water than they used to.
and I would,
But I think that waiting for the culvert inventory is not addressing your more immediate concern.
no, it's not, and I don't mean to sit here and repeat myself or pound on somebody or pound on the situation. But like I said, that thing is plugged up 5 times up there.
5 times within How many years?
Well, it's,
And then
Well-
6 or 7.
6 or 7,
well,
almost once a
it's
year.
plugged up.
Well, it did, I mean, it did last July this year, but it also was the only culvert, the only flood event that we had, what, in the spring of last year?
This last July didn't do it,
Oh, that's right.
the one before.
Yeah.
They did this time, they did it, you know, the big Irene, they did it, it's done it 5 times, they did it this winter. Matter of fact, it plugged up and ran down the road. And I just, in my house, the excavation was done, I went through the permit process on everything. For drainage and all this and that, and it complied, and it just simply jumped that bank like 20 feet above where it normally does.
It's changed.
And I don't wanna sound like something, but I just feel as if like my neighbor up the road, he lives up back, if his tree fell on my house, I think he'd be liable for it. I personally do, or to participate and to work with me. And I expect to go out there anytime we get a downpour, God only knows where that septic's gonna be.
Right.
Alice, when you're talking with Keith, we need to get Bud Nut Hill on the local hazard mitigation plan. That
Yep.
many times in such a short period of time, that would bring some emphasis and give us some more leverage too. We need to get it
Yeah,
on the, we need to get that on the LHMP.
That's on our agenda for Keith and I to talk about tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Ask a question and get some advice from the board, considering how it is an emergency because of the septic and the rain coming. Like you said, Brian, we don't really have time to wait for the culvert, that avenue, something's gotta be happening now. What does the board suggest to do for prevention for this? So that the next rainstorm coming, we're not worried about the septic coming down. Also, we have a phenomenal road crew in this town. They do a phenomenally good job, and I've been up back and stuff like that, and since I was a kid. And that stream coming down through used to go straight into the culvert. Now through, whether it's the rain events or repairs or something like that, you've got the culvert that's not straight anymore, it's like this. And that stream comes down and it turns and goes like this. So just questions about when restoration happened, was it put back where it was? Did somebody get a hold of, I think his name's Jordan Burgone, you know, the state, you know, how you put it back properly, what's the proper things? I'm just looking, I think Dad is too, we're looking for a team to do homework together. And very much looking for your guidance on the next proper steps.
Well, I think, you know, again, we don't have any answers tonight, this is the first time we've talked.
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah,
it
yeah.
before. But York and Josh have done an inspection, are looking at with our insurance provider to see what might be available, and we're exploring what other types of funding sources might be available to help landowners as well as the town. And it's, you know, we're gonna continue to do that.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
I mean, I've ordered 2 hydrological studies, H&H studies for the 2 culverts that we had to do that we replaced last July from the July flood, Center Facein and Old Center Facein. And I talked to V-Trans about ordering one. They're just so far behind because this most recent flood event, I'm struggling to figure out how that works. And you just mentioned Jaron, and I was thinking I had not called Jaron, and maybe I will, and see if A&R would like to make a site visit up to that. And I think that would be appropriate, actually, at least to reach out to them and see if that could be something they could do. And I just took a note of that as well, and I'll reach out to A&R tomorrow.
Yeah, and
You were
get in touch
talking-
with them about, you know, the past events and stuff like that, you know, on the
Yep.
corrections.
May I,
York,
excuse
talk to
may-
me tomorrow, because I have a contact in Department of Environmental Conservation in the stormwater
I definitely,
division.
I definitely will with my father. Thank you very much, Alice. So is your number in the book, the phone book?
My number, yes, it is.
All right, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
I would like to say one more thing before I leave, which is gonna be shortly, I'm sure. I wish somebody, either anybody here or whatever, anybody here would go up back where that big culvert is. I'm not talking about the culvert, we discussed that a little bit. Walk up that brook with me. It'll blow your guy's mind what you see.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because years ago, an excavator went in up there, not that far up that stream. They dammed that whole thing up. There's pipes up there and culverts you wouldn't believe. They've altered that brook years ago. Where my house is now, it got so bad they ruptured that land behind my house back in, and my dad and mom lived there. They had a brook running right down by their house in the backyard. We get after them. I don't know if it's on the records here, if you guys get involved. And when they took that dam out, the water quit running. You know, it ruptured up there. I just wish you guys would see the work. It probably doesn't pertain to me, but what went on up there.
We need to get a study done.
It would be worth a damn walk up there for anybody to see, just for a piece of education, the stuff that people did.
York, can you send us the address at some point? I just don't
Can
want
you
you to
send
have
it,
to, I don't want you to have to share it on a public forum if you don't want, but,
Dave, can you say that one more time?
can you share the address with us so we can walk up there?
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sure he would love to, and honestly, I'll just like piggyback on what he was saying. Even if you're standing on Butternut and looking up where the culvert is, I was like, I don't understand why the stream looks like this. Is it always, I mean, it does look like almost a bomb went off. It is really interesting looking. I just think it's flooded and, you know, but it is quite the sight to see.
Yeah, it is, and, but I'm just saying, when we talk about things in the past and history, there's a reason for sometimes that affecting the present. And I really don't.
No, it wasn't anything that the town did, though. to the
No,
street.
it was an individual owner up there. These people came in up there in '69, everything was perfect up until then. Then they got that roads up there and sold the land, and they came in from out of state and they bought the property, or local people bought the property, which they have a right to. But that culvert's always been an issue up there.
From what the town did, Brian, I'm talking a distance of the length from maybe double from me to you, from the culvert upstream.
Well, they dug it
How that
out.
got reformed, whether the
Yeah.
town or the nature did it. I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm not saying either
I
way.
wanna see, I expect Charlie Goodman would have an idea.
Yeah, and I've got photos and I know the excavator operators that did it. And
Excuse me, Trip, I really don't have much more to say unless somebody wanna ask me questions, because I feel that we discussed some stuff and maybe could get a ball rolling. As far as anybody walking up that brook or anything on my property, I'd appreciate it if I could participate in that walk around.
Are you around most days?
Pardon?
Are you around most days?
I can be around any time.
Okay,
It makes no difference, just if I know, I'll be there.
okay.
And
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. I think, maybe I can learn a few things also.
Hugh, is it okay if I share your information with the select board after the meeting and for them to just contact you directly? What would be the way that you would like?
York, you do whatever you want to do. I
Okay.
totally feel good and comfortable with you. And the other thing Trip touched upon, words can't describe your road crew. And I mean every inch of that.
And the representation that York did coming up
Yeah.
visiting. You guys gotta get really good staff.
The only thing York's gotta do is get back up here to Vermont.
He's
working on
We're working on that.
Have we all sat here?
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
Thank you
don't
very
know
much for your
name.
time.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Josh, it's good seeing you.
You'll definitely call me tomorrow.
Thanks, Fred.
I will, Alice.
It's good to-
I will, Alice. Thank you very much.
I'll do my best.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody else.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank you
new
for coming, George.
contact, and this guy actually contacted me on the listserv, the whichever flood listserv it was. But also Jaron Borg is no longer our rep. There
I
is
thought I read that.
Yeah, there is a replacement, but I'm sure Jaron wouldn't walk away from us
Yeah,
either.
you guys work that out.
So I'm just gonna do a quick time check. It's
Yes.
7. Okay.
Steve. Next item is end of fiscal year forecast, including road department. And thanks for the memo.
Absolutely, good to see everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Steve Lewis, I'm the town treasurer. I'm here to present the budget status report through mid-May. So go ahead, I'll pause for a second. I will start again. So for those that don't know me, my name is Steve Lewis, I'm the town treasurer. I'm here to present the budget status report to the select board through mid-May, as well as a projection for the end of fiscal year 25, ending June 30th. The report was prepared largely by Sandra Gallup and myself, so thank you to Sandy for all her inputs on this and her continued support. So I'm sure the select board's had a chance to review the document. I'll just give some highlights here. As of mid-May, the town had received 99% of your revenue, which is mostly tax income. We have expended 75% or paid 75% of the expenses. By the end of the year, we're going to fund the reserves, as we do on an annual basis, to the tune of approximately $610,000, $615,000. Once we do that, the expenditures will be approximately 96% of the budget. So based on those inputs, we're projecting that revenue will exceed expenditures by $55,000, which is a good thing for the town. On the revenue side, we were projecting that revenue will be higher, $152,000 from the budget. There's some primary drivers for this. One, obviously, the town is in a good cash position and has invested wisely, funds and CDs and that sort of thing, and the interest rate environment is much more favorable than it's been in recent past. So that's driven the majority of this increase. There's also some grant revenue that came in and some overages on the state current use reimbursement. On the expense side, we're estimating that the expenses will be just barely ahead of the budget by $1,500, so essentially right on budget for the year, which is great. So of that $152,000 overage on the revenue side, the select board voted to expend $95,000 on a new truck for the road department, which I know Josh is very happy about. So the net of all those inputs we're estimating is a positive net income, if you will, of $55,000 for the town. The second page of the report goes into detail on all of the different line items. I will speak to a line that I'm sure is going to come up as a question. Obviously, we've had some more flooding, unfortunately, recently. We do have contracted services for the road department in the budget already to the tune of $12,300. We've spent less than $10,000 on that so far in invoices received. There obviously will be some more invoices that are received and some overages for overtime related to the labor that's gone into this. And I would echo the previous gentleman's sentiment that the road department's doing a great job. So I will stop talking for a second and answer questions.
What was the road department grant? Was that?
Road department grant was a fiscal year 23 grant for some ditching work that was done. We received 16.5.
So it's reimbursement of expenses incurred a
grant.
couple years
Yeah,
ago.
exactly. Yep.
Got it, okay.
Where are we with cash flow? I know that a lot of the wastewater work that we're doing is based on reimbursements that have been somewhat slowed down.
That's correct. So we have received all of the payment requests to date, so we're now up to date on those. JB just submitted another roughly $140,000 in reimbursement requests, which is kind of the next phase of the more current invoices. So we're pretty much up to date on that.
And if we get FEMA reimbursements for last July's flood, that'll be not likely gonna get here until next fiscal year.
That's correct.
So you're not counting that towards any revenue either?
We are not. No.
Okay.
What's that?
You got something else?
No.
No?
Well, just clarification, so the kind of the logjam on the wastewater reimbursements, that's kind of clear.
That is freed up, yes. Yep. We have submitted 7 payment requests so far, and 6 have been paid. The most recent one was just submitted last week.
Great.
Yeah, I have a question, not so much with this budget, but looking forward. would you recommend us setting up a reserve to handle emergency situations like road repairs and other infrastructure damage
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly-
caused by these storms that we're having?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. There's certainly been a lot of banter on that amongst the towns in Vermont, and obviously, unfortunately, we're getting a lot of these natural disasters, if you will, happening more frequently. So I think that's something we certainly can consider in the future, and would be a good idea.
So at the end of the calendar year, when we're putting the budget together, we estimated a pretty well-informed estimate that our unassigned balance was about $1 million. We decided at town meeting, I think, to spend down $300,000 of that. And then we opted to buy a new truck for another $95,000 out of unassigned balance, which theoretically will get us down to around $600,000. We have a unassigned fund policy of keeping 3 months of cash on hand. We've talked about in the past that maybe given the number of natural disasters we're experiencing, maybe extending that to four months or more, just so we have more of a cushion.
2 months now, isn't it?
I think it's 3.
I think it was 2.
My memory is 2 as well.
It's 2, okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
that's
think
all
maybe
we're
we've been
to.
thinking of,
Maybe we were talking
I think we
3.
were thinking of increasing, but I can't remember if it was 2 to 3.
Yeah, well, we should look at that at
Either way.
the same time that we talk about a reserve fund and see what the best mechanism is. A reserve
I think
fund
that's right.
would be a good way to
Stan-
carry money forward and not have,
Well, when we
put
do
it in
get
the bank
hit,
and invest it.
And perhaps in the process of, I know one of the things on the work plan is figuring out how to streamline the budgetary system and the reserve funds. Perhaps that could be incorporated into that process to,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we're just starting the process with the auditors for the next fiscal year, so and that's one of the things we'll be talking about. And certainly we can add on this reserve funding discussion.
So one thing I'd like to do is, and I plan on doing a little research in the town office to kind of figure out some of those reserve funds that were created a couple decades ago and don't really provide a clear understanding of what their intent is, and maybe we might want to go to the voters next year and kind of straighten out some of the reserve funds and clarify them and maybe, reallocate them or broaden their purpose. So I think there's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, if you need any information on the reserve funds, just let me know. And I think Sandy's a great resource there as well.
I am curious, one of our items today is to buy a loader. And that would be out of our heavy equipment reserve fund. We're good there, right?
We should be, yes.
Okay. And then, just trying to think, so, anything else?
I think part of your cash flow question dovetails into the next item.
I was gonna say, this was all good news.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next item, less so.
That is correct.
We are likely gonna get reimbursed for the cyber fraud that we suffered. And that'll likely show up in next fiscal year, so are we looking at that next fiscal year, kind of starting off with a revenue spike from some reimbursement?
Well, the net impact of it will be 0, because we still need to pay the vendor, and hopefully
Got it.
insurance comes through, so the net impact will be
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
And the thinking is that's gonna net each other out in fiscal year '26.
Okay.
So I don't think that there'll be a spike, no. I mean, the timing won't be exact.
So we haven't paid the vendor yet.
That's
we
correct.
Thought we did, but.
Yep. Yeah, with the ongoing investigation, they're still looking into the source of this, all the rest of it. So I think until that settles, it makes sense to hold that one particular invoice. There has been
They're aware of that, right?
They're aware of that, yes. There's been a subsequent invoice it's actually in the warrant for tonight, that is to be processed. But the one in question is on hold,
But we're not gonna do that until July 1.
yes.
So as far as, kind of going on the financial loss report, York, do you want to give the update, or Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to it a little bit to start if you want, York. So when we found out about this, we notified the state police, we've notified the FBI, We've notified VLCT that has the insurance for the town. We notified M&T Bank of the fraud, who's the town's bank. So we've notified all the parties, and the investigations are in process. We've provided all the information that we have on hand. So that's what I know of the situation as of today. York, do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, I just want to say the town staff was awesome. Steve immediately contacted M&T, went through the whole process of that. M&T basically, right, it's kind of in their hands right now. Once they conclude their investigation, then it will go over to passive, et cetera. Of course, the Vermont State Police started, have a case file, et cetera. Passive also has a cyber insurance partner called Beasley Insurance, which we've been actively communicating with. And it was really thanks to a Nuwari colleague that I met that set up the conversation that led, to the FBI conversation. However, that's separate from the IC3.gov, which is an Internet Crime Complaint Center operated by the FBI, which we also filed the, I guess a complaint with. I think what's cool is because of this, the team of people that have come together that have been very supportive of the town staff, said that we should not be kicking ourselves, said very clearly this was an elaborate cybercrime. But now we have a team of Vermont Intelligence and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, who are gonna, I think July 8th at 9 a.m. and I'm kind of hoping to maybe even close the office for half a day. They're gonna do a cybersecurity training that's gonna include kind of like an audit and then some recommendations that the town, some ideas, some recommendations that to bolster our cybersecurity. That's also in parallel with some conversations I've been having with Henry, our longtime IT consultant, who has some really good ideas, and he actually just did some bunch of work for the sheriff's department. I think it was really unfortunate. If it's okay to Steve, I'm going to share. Sandy came in that day, and we told her, and she was upset. And then she said, "But you know what? Nobody was hurt." And Steve said the town was hurt. And I think it was remarkable that Steve said that. It's really stuck with me. But I think we moved forward really well, and I'm looking forward to bolstering our security and creating policy to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate York's comment that I think, certainly speaking for myself, but for the board, we are really pleased with the way staff handled it. It was not, there's no finger pointing, it was not, it would have been great if it was avoided, but it was pretty slick how they did it, and it would have happened to anybody. So I just want to, no kicking yourselves.
Thank you for that.
I do
Thanks, Brian.
fractional CFO work for a bunch of companies in Vermont. Every one of them has been hit with something like
Yep.
this. So
Yeah, it's an
we are-
unfortunate situation,
We're not
so,
alone.
yeah.
One thing, I don't know if you've had a chance yet to work with M&T Bank on any of their services, kind of the check run audit type of services they can provide.
We did implement positive pay with them for
That's
physical
the one.
checks, and that's been in place for a little more than a month now. They have a similar product for ACH payments. That is not in place yet, but something that we can explore.
Cool, awesome.
But like right away, Steve and I both, like our red flags are up, and there was an email that came through maybe 2 weekends ago, and both of us were like bing bing, and Steve and I were the same page, and we've learned from this, and we've already basically enacted a new policy to make sure it doesn't happen again, because in hindsight, we made, I guess you could say, some mistakes. I mean, we have a pretty small capacity for the town, and so it's hard to keep up with everything that's happening. And by us being on high alert for this, it may mean that we're not as high alert for some other things, but we are doing our best, I think.
And we're insured, which is
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
great. So in the end, it's a small loss.
But I am really sorry it happened.
Agreed.
Yeah. Anything else for us?
I don't have anything else. Do you have any other questions for me? Great. Well, as always, you know where to find me if you have any questions.
Yep.
Good to see you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for all
Yeah,
the work,
thank
Steve.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, York.
Aaron? Just for an introduction,
John Petrowski with Trudell, now
okay,
Bowman.
Aaron Shea.
Aaron Shea.
We made a request to give a presentation. You did stop by the board several months ago.
Yeah, in August.
During open session and just raised the topic of possibly developing town land, the field in front of the town's gravel pit next to suburban propane.
They're all,
down on Route 100.
those three go together.
Asked to come and give a presentation.
Give them the whole pack, I'll give you two one to share.
I've kind of just honed it down a little bit just to make it more of a discussion than anything else.
Bring in another one or no?
I had a chat with York and he just kind of said it was probably a good time to chat about it. So I reached out to John and had him do a little bit of, we had their landscape architect do a little bit of work. And that's what, this is just a couple of options. It's a mix of single-family homes exclusively, a mix of single-family and multifamily, and then just multifamily. We used property that we own that's adjacent, that we already had designed for wastewater capacity. That's where the capacities came from. They would certainly be able to change based on an inspection on the site, but we were just, it triggered to me. I went to a planning commission meeting and one of the things that came up was somebody kept saying we need to give money for housing, and I was like, well, as a developer, I don't really want money, I need just a place to put it. And so that's where this kind of came up.
Can you orient us quickly on
Yeah,
the
can you give us an
map?
address or?
Probably,
Your
yeah,
adjoining property is
yeah,
just
so,
off the map?
yeah, I sure can.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, so, no, you're totally good. So this is our part, you can see,
Got it.
so,
Yeah, that's about
So
right
what,
there.
what road is it off of, sorry?
it's right at Route 100.
Yeah,
Oh, Mary.
and you,
There, yes.
obviously you have the
So it's
active
maybe
development
like,
right above, off of
Yep.
center face.
Less
Yeah.
than, less than 1,000 feet, well, probably more than that. It's, how far is it past North Facein Road?
North face?
I'm sorry,
Center.
Center Facein Road,
Yeah, it's a half mile or
Half
so.
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
towards the village.
Right. It's
And-
almost directly across from Kenyon's.
Okay.
That's probably the best reference that I could give you. And like I said, so we did a quick wetland analysis. We did a quick, just kind of, we didn't want to dig in too deep at this point, but it was just trying to do a little bit of the back work.
Yeah.
Isn't the town quarry
Yeah,
at the end?
it's in the back there.
Beyond this road, beyond the proposed road, is your quarry.
Yeah, no.
Right. So it would be a new, I mean, the thought we had was it would be a new entrance for the quarry as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're, like I said, it was just an idea that we had, so I did a little bit of research and John spent a little bit of time on it. John, maybe you can run through the options there.
Sure.
That's
I
probably
mean,
the easiest thing.
The first one is, all triplexes, but all single units, and it uses up probably the most space, plenty of parking, a road that goes right up the middle, and it's served by municipal water, which is close, and then sewer would be a large,
Yeah, municipal water's right, it's already on
Right
the
on Main
street.
Street.
Yeah.
and there's a large community septic area that we've already tested and identified, and very, just off the map a little bit on the Shea property. The second option is, and we've done the environmental work in this too, we know where the wetlands are and we know what the topo is, and this actually is, it's a little bit beyond feasibility, it's functional. It's something that could work.
There is, I recall looking at this as a potential site for the wastewater, kind of a decentralized plan. I recall there's significant water coming down that hill, isn't there?
There is some spots where water drains off the hill, but not too bad. We didn't see anything significant. There's some low spots where it collects, and there's some wetlands, and there's some drainage that goes through the various parcels, but in this area that we're showing the homes, it's a good area, pretty clean. So the second sketch is the mix of, you know, the triplexes and single-family and then one multifamily building. Each one is about 25 dwelling units. We picked that number because if you go over 25, you get into an indirect discharge permit with your wastewater, and that's a big threshold to cross. And the other thing that's really unique about this, if it works, is that if that sewer system were considered municipal, if the town participated in this project and it were municipal, then that would be a proposed project with 25 or less units with a municipal sewer and water, and it would qualify for the Act 250 exemption that's currently been passed. But that's not.
Is that rolled within the existing proposed wastewater thing, or is this a separate, this is a totally separate?
So the system that we designed, so rewind, like where we right now have a couple of parcels, just to the north of the Armstrong, there across from Tremblay. We originally were looking at doing workforce housing there. And so when we first started that process, we had him look at what our septic capacity was in the back, and so that's what it was based on. So the design that's there, the area is designed for a certain flow rate, and that's what it's designed for. It's not, this is a totally separate.
Okay, that's what I thought, I just couldn't
totally-
tell in reading between the lines of the
Totally
text.
separate project.
I might
Okay.
not have been clear. Sometimes my brain is
As is mine, so I'm
Yeah.
just making sure that I understand what we're referencing when
Yeah.
we reference municipal.
He's saying that if a system went into service, all of that, it could be considered a municipal
Got it.
system, and then it would fall under the Act 250 exemption, which would have some significant cost and time
Savings.
savings.
So the second sketch with the mix of, one big building and the smaller units has a road to the north, whereas the first one that I'd mentioned, the road was right down the middle. And then this last sketch, the road is to the south, and this is just all multifamily, same densities. This is probably the most efficient build-out, because there's a lot of economy in putting up apartment buildings. I guess that's what you'd call them.
Spatially efficient? Or just efficient?
He's talking about, what he's really talking about is financially efficient.
Okay, I
But,
was gonna
yeah.
say efficient can mean a lot of things, what kind of efficiency are we talking about? Okay.
It's just you're putting the most homes in the smallest space.
Understood.
Well, and you're putting environmentally, the impact
Yeah.
is the least amount as well, because you're clustering. But I don't think any of the proposals, they fit the character of the area. There's houses out there. This would be close to Main Street, and, it would be a development similar to the one to the south and similar to the clusters to the north. So, yeah, it's an idea that Aaron had my landscape architect, work on, and I think it's a viable project. This is your land, and I think it's in the 70 acres or so.
It's 84 acres,
84
I think.
acres. Yeah, so it's a good parcel of land. Pardon?
Including the gravel pit?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the whole parcel.
Yeah.
The whole parcel is,
I remember when the town bought the land for the gravel pit, they did talk about future uses beyond the gravel pit, and housing was identified for possible use.
74.
I don't think it envisioned
74 acres, yeah.
the co-location of housing. Our road foreman, when we came to the last meeting, did raise some informal concerns about conflicts with the gravel pit. And we haven't been through any process.
No,
This is the start of
this
the
is very-
conversation.
yeah.
I think the multifamily, the last one that we presented, would be the least impact if trucks continued to run to the quarry, because there's some separation between the buildings and the road. But that could be considered. I don't know how often you guys draw material out of that pit. I don't see much truck traffic there.
you wouldn't know if you were seeing it because the entrance isn't right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
The last month has been pretty busy.
It has.
And last July it was really busy.
And they come in and out on Main
Only
Street.
because of flood relief.
Yeah.
We had more town and faced in trucks just constantly pulling material out to help us get everything back in order after the last flood.
So it must have a land use permit and a multi-sector permit for.
Yeah, it actually does not have an active finished permit.
Okay, it doesn't.
It was less than 10 acres of disturbed area, which for municipal use, that's the jurisdictional
Yep.
trigger.
Okay.
I can, I'm happy to run through, like, I kinda just did a quick crib sheet. I can run through as much or as little as you guys are interested in. It's,
You know, we are a little time
yeah,
sensitive.
I'm
tonight.
happy to,
I will say that, just from my own perspective, if the board felt it was worth pursuing, it would require, you know, a public conversation. Obviously, we would want to get input from our road guys. And I don't imagine that we would just turn over the keys. We would have to go through a process of doing an RFP, seeing, you know, and who's available. We'd want to look at, you know, track records and experience, and also what kind of assurances would be given to the town that these would be affordable, would be used for the purposes, you know, workforce housing, however you define that. We would really want to define that, I think, in any kind of agreement with the landowner, in some kind of public-private partnership.
no, absolutely. York and I have talked about that. We understand. For us, we're just, you know, there's land there that can be used. We understand that you're not just gonna give it to us. You know, we're happy to submit or not, frankly. I mean, it's not gonna hurt my feelings either way. It was a good application, and there's some financial, you know, benefits, and they take time, you know, listening to everything else. And so for me, it's more just a matter of, you know, if I've had a meeting with the Central Vermont Economic Development, and just some of the things that are out there to keep the homes affordable within that range. I've had some conversations with several people. Michelle's one of my resources, and she kind of gave me the VHFA 425 is kind of the number that they really target. I'm gonna not use the nomenclature right because it's not my expertise. But yeah, no, we totally understand. It's just thought it was a interesting opportunity to provide an interesting solution. And like I said, we'd be happy to compete on an RFP. Just the methodology that we're building with, not a lot of other people are doing. So happy to do whatever we'd have to do, and happy also not to.
And it's not unprecedented. Folks have driven through Waterbury Village lately.
Right.
It's under construction there. It was the site of the old town office.
Mhm.
That,
They're doing a project right now. I live in Waterbury.
yeah, and that's down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that took the vote by the water district to pass it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that took a lot of political will and work to do.
Well,
Yeah.
that sat vacant forever, so
Yeah.
it took, 15 years or whatever it was, a long time,
Yeah.
since Irene,
2011.
since Irene.
I'm curious, and I'm appreciative of the creative ideas. You know, I've been to some other ski towns and seen things they're doing, like Telluride has a whole neighborhood which is local restricted. They basically, you have to have a local W-2. And that's an idea I've had kind of in the past. I don't know if they've done it in Vermont anywhere. So in addition to the affordability component, it's making sure that people aren't living there and working in Burlington.
Oh yeah,
And,
it's
I swore I wasn't gonna talk. I'm Michelle.
hey, Michelle.
Hi.
What's your last name, Michelle?
Leibowitz. I, multiple years ago, was the executive director of the Housing Coalition for the Valley. I also helped the town of Woodstock create the program that you're talking about that's similar to that.
Yeah.
That you need to have work locally to be able to have the housing and the deed restrictions.
I've always been curious about
It's
that.
based off of a program out of Vail, and it is possible to do. When I was here multiple years ago, and a few of you were sitting around the table, I kept getting asked, how do we solve housing? How do we solve the housing problem? And the issue is resources. We don't have the dollars, but the town has the land, and that takes a lot of it. But it also having the belief that the people who live and work here should be the ones that should have access to the housing and create those restrictions is important.
Well, I'm very curious and appreciative,
Yeah.
subject to all caveats that Brian raised that we need to go through.
But it's great to have a creative problem-solving, like, idea thrown in the mix.
Yeah, we've got everything figured out as far as deed restrictions and
Cool.
you know who would be eligible, but it's very doable. It's just not. I'm not spending a ton of money on this right now for obvious reasons.
Yep, that makes
I've already put more time and effort than I planned on, but I just wanted to just show that it was possible.
I'm curious, on the other side of the Armstrongs, you had a couple of units, I
Yep.
think, 4 permitted.
Yep.
Duplexes.
What's the status of those?
They'll be built this fall. They'll be
They weren't subject to the zoning litigation?
nope.
How many acres would this, of that 70 whatever acre
We
site?
pulled about 10 plus or minus, like 10.1, something like that.
Yeah.
But that was just me using like, you know, the state GIS.
Yeah,
I didn't ask them to we didn't do any surveying or anything like that.
yeah.
But it was like 10.1 acres is when I just kind of drew straight lines
One
across.
thing I talked to Josh, first thing I talked about is it would be great for us to get out on a site visit and go
That
visit the
was-
property.
yeah.
'Cause
I'd like to do that as well.
Especially now that we have like drawings in hand, we can like physically go
Yeah.
and imagine and.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of site work there. It's like I'm not gonna, you know, there's some, but it's nothing. It's stuff that happens fairly easily and regularly, but you have to have a little vision.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty flat.
It is. There's just a couple high spots. Like we were more worried. What we were more worried about was wetlands and
Yeah.
you know the deer wintering yards, and that was really why before I wanted to make sure that I was like, is this a total waste of time?
Yeah.
And that's why if we're gonna do it, we may as well take a look and actually see what we're looking at. Instead of wasting everybody's time. So we've confirmed it can work. The rest is up to you.
Thanks, Aaron.
So Josh did, he said, give him a little bit of time to clean up the road because it really got hammered in the last few weeks. But we should get out there while it's still late.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you wanted to take it to the next level of a more comprehensive feasibility analysis and start solving some of these problems, that there wouldn't be some grant money available for housing. The state is desperate for it.
Yeah,
I know they're having a really hard time getting it built, so.
And if there was some grant, I mean, you could put that out to bid. Aaron obviously would be one of the bidders, but that's the next step. You gotta take it to the next level, which is to really go a little bit further.
I would also argue that a lot of the public funding for housing is for a lower income than what Aaron's trying to focus on, or whoever you give this land to. And that's really the piece that is hurting in the valley. People that live and work here but can't go buy that $350 to $1,000 home, starter home, they should be able to do that. And those are the families that are leaving, and they're our community.
Yeah.
So if there is a way to be able to do it in a way that the town can really, honestly, without some of those public funds, will allow you to have more control of who can live there and how it's used, and have a higher income level than the very low, lots of subsidy, which is also very much needed, but requires so much more resources, that this would be a proposal of more units with less public funds, and it would help the people.
It can happen a lot quicker
Yeah.
that way. But yeah, our whole thing was we didn't want to do affordable housing. We wanted to do workforce housing. We wanted bartenders to have a place to live, so our
Yep.
restaurants didn't close down.
Yep.
Chefs and bartenders.
Yeah, I mean we're a service. We're a tourist.
Yeah.
A lot of tourism here, and
Service.
you got to be able to service our tourists.
And honestly, the
You can
school
keep that.
teachers,
Yep.
Yeah,
the
teachers.
school teachers, the nurses.
Yeah.
Kind of like the teacher we lost at Waitsfield who couldn't find the
Yeah,
place.
there was a doctor that was hired, but that didn't come because they couldn't find housing.
Yep.
I percent for you.
Those are the type of people that we need to make sure come from the valley.
town administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Administrator.
Nobody cares about them.
I
We do, man.
I am painfully aware of the fact that we bought our place at the right time and we're super lucky, and it's July of 2019, and had we waited a little bit longer, we would be priced out of here.
And it's even,
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point now, like we're in that real estate business, and you can get land. You just can't you can't afford to have anybody build on it, and if you do, it's like, give me a call next year so we can talk about when I'm gonna give you a price. And like, that's literally why we started the home building business, is because we were like, there's nobody doing it.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to find an expeditious, cost-efficient way to build, which is why we're doing what we're doing. So we've got 6 homes that we're gonna be putting up in the next 3 months.
Great.
So that was my goal for the year, and next year we wanna do 10, and we'll see how it all goes.
I'm just curious while you're here, how's the Methodist Church coming along?
Methodist Church. Oh, I have an update on that, actually.
It's like, oh,
Yeah, no, we've got everything, it's supposed to be 2 to 6 weeks. I'm supposed to finally have our financing sorted for that. Ran into a ton of problems, so we're trying to break ground in September.
Nice.
Trying to do that in parallel, but yeah, it's all part and parcel. It's been, to be honest, it's been a nightmare. Dealing with the banks. I've wasted, I don't want to tell you how many hundreds of hours. But yeah, we're targeting September, maybe October, but I'd like to have the exterior work done before it's cold. So it'll at least look nice for the winter.
So busy fall.
Lots of subs. Yeah, we have a building partner as well who, we have 28 guys, excuse me. So we've got the crews that we need to do what we gotta do.
So I mentioned earlier, we're going through priorities today and talked about how this would fit in. And, you know, again, there would need to be some preliminary public conversations about how the voters feel about it. And
Whatever the process is, we're happy to, I'm gonna do this when I walk out, and if you guys wanna chat, you can give me a call, or not. It's all
No, I
good. It's
appreciate
just an idea and something that we thought could potentially help a lot.
What are kind of the soft deadlines that you have in your mind, you said, I think there was a date in here, I cannot remember.
It's all kinda, I mean, it's just,
But
to me, the way I look at.
Nothing hard.
No, like the way Brian was saying, like I like to get as many, like when you know it's gonna take time to do things, I like to start them, get them going in parallel.
Cool.
I could tell you how long it would take to build them, but, you know,
I'm curious about that.
well, it depends on if you're doing multifamily or, because we do everything with off-site construction, so, you know, we can do, like, I ordered those duplexes I ordered today, and they'll be built in 4 weeks, so,
Your concept, are you, when you say multifamily, are you still thinking owner occupied?
yeah.
Okay, so you don't wanna be a landlord, you wanna.
No.
You wanna.
No, we gotten smarter on that, no. We're selling everything, yeah, no,
Would it
not.
be structured as a condo, like the multifamily, do you think, or like a?
For that
Yeah,
particularly, condominiumizing is the way I would probably do it,
just curious.
yeah, yeah, no, I don't
You'd
wanna,
have to, because the triplexes,
Yeah.
you'd have to kind of.
I don't wanna be a landlord anymore, I'm all set on that.
so, sorry, just to, one point of clarification, so 4-week build from the time that you order it, but it's built off-site?
Yep.
And then what, like, transportation time and like
They're
actually getting it?
pretty flexible, it usually, like, we tell people 12 weeks from the time you pull the trigger.
Just to get a sense
But it
of,
could
like,
be faster, it depends. So these guys did 120 units in Nantucket. They barged every piece out there for workforce housing. So, and they had to match the Cape Cod with the shake side, yeah, all that. And it was all built in Pennsylvania, shipped out by barge. And I think the whole project took around a year. And that was, like I said, I think it was, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 120 units. It's a super efficient.
Yeah.
It's super, especially with our winters. You know, all we have to do is have foundations in by November, and you know we have indoor workspace all winter. We can deliver at any time, and you know it takes a lot of the ups and downs of construction and gets them out of the way. I know you guys got a lot of meeting stuff to
Yeah, we
discuss.
No, thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, though. Thanks for your time.
Exactly.
Yep.
Can I make one suggestion?
Sure.
If you go out to a public meeting and you're trying to have this conversation, educating the community on what you mean as workforce housing, earlier the better, because there's going to be a huge bias about, I don't want those people in my backyard. So explaining to people what that really means in the community you're trying to support will allow a project like this to go through much smoother.
Yeah, I'd like to think that as a community, we're beyond that, but you're right.
Yes.
You see what happened in Greensboro recently?
Yep.
Yeah, and I've worked multiple places around the country,
Yeah, really
and
from
it's
that.
always re-educating every time,
Mhm.
no matter what.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate the insight,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks for your help. That's very,
Um,
very interesting.
Yeah. So, town road crew updates. York, you have, a proposal for, renting, I don't know that this is, well, York, I'm gonna turn this over to you. We've got two things. Josh is wanting to rent an excavator for a couple of months to speed up work, on road maintenance and ditching maintenance. And we did put in our capital budget buying a loader this year, which has been,
Yep.
which Josh has been shopping around for several months.
Yeah, so I think this is relatively straightforward, or could be. He has 2 quotes for excavators. His preference is the Anderson, mostly because they deliver. The other quote organization does not deliver, and he said that's fine. It is a little more affordable, but it creates some hiccups. His original ask was actually 3 months, but he's gone back to 2, partially because of some of the report I'll give in a minute about the flood update. But yeah, and what he would really like to do is put one, because of our budget for this fiscal year, put 1 month on this fiscal year, and then 1 month on next fiscal year, which would, with the process we've been going through, once you approve a quote, then we get all the paperwork, and then you guys sign the warrant, et cetera, it would take probably too much time. So Josh and I would like, since we already have the quote, for us to be able to process the check and send that for this fiscal year, to get that moving with the excavator.
And York,
So
when we
that-
talked about this, the line item for equipment rental contract work, we're
That's right.
still under budget, so this would be within this year's budget, right?
Yeah, I can't say exactly. We might, the 5,000 might go over a little bit, but we don't know yet. I mean, we've gotten, we've heard from 4 contractors, I think. And so we're close to the 5,000 being within budget. But yes, I think it is possible we'll go over by 1,000 even. But
Given
don't
what-
quote.
Given Steve's
What's that?
presentation, I don't think we should worry too
Yeah,
much about it.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, so the hope would be to do it again, because Josh says sometimes, if you don't use the funds, then you lose it, and in his eyes, and so he thought it would look good to do it this year, since there's some funds in that contractor line item.
So you're asking for a motion and a vote to approve the Anderson proposal?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Josh would like, and then if it's okay for us to send out a check for 1 month in this fiscal year, for that to be approved as well, with this,
Motion to that
with the.
effect? Brad, move that?
I'd move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
And then the loader?
The loader, there's also 2 2 quotes. Josh feels quite strongly about the Anderson. They're 2 different products. The CAT is not adequate, it's undersized. It is less, the quote is for less money, and it is within what we have budgeted. Josh is quite concerned that it won't be adequate for the work that he does, since it's undersized compared to the Anderson quote. And he tried to get Cat to give him a quote for what he really was looking for, and struggled to work with that company for them to give that. So yes, he feels very good about the quote from Anderson, with the exception that it is over budget. I will add, actually, the Cat quote does not have everything included, and we do not know what it would cost. So that quote is a little low.
So,
The Cat quote is a little low compared to what it would be.
so they won't give us a
Still-
quote for the equipment we want?
That is literally what Josh said. I'm like, I don't get it. Just say this is
Just
what we
checking.
want. And, and it was a
I'd be
fun
like, how about
conversation.
this?
All right, let's be fair. Anytime we talk to Josh, it's a great conversation. So, but this was no exception. So yeah, he would like to have the approval to order the loader from Anderson.
So
And I
it's
think-
179 versus 163 with the trade.
Yeah, we were carrying 164 in the SIP plan.
And don't quote me on this, but they're offering to build the body and then not take the trade in yet, because that's gonna take over the winter, to finish it, so that we can keep usually you turn your loader in, I guess. I was a little confused, but at any rate, it's gonna make it so we always have a loader and we won't have a break. And there was a concern that maybe that wouldn't be the case, because the time between the original build for the chassis or whatever to when it's fully completed is gonna be over winter, when we need a loader. And so he was pretty happy that Anderson was willing to work with him on that.
So a real quick delivery would be when?
Next spring.
Next spring?
I think spring, yeah. I think he thought February or March is what they're thinking.
Okay, so still within the fiscal year that we planned from
Correct.
a budget perspective?
Yep. Yeah, and I think Josh is, I shouldn't say anxious, but, he's on top of it. And in terms of timelines, and things take time, and so he knows this is the time to get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
I'd make a motion that we buy the Anderson loader.
Is there a second?
And second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
The only discussion is how much do we need to pay now, or do we basically just wait for pay on delivery? Is there
I
a
don't
deposit?
think, yeah, I don't think we pay anything right now. I think we pay something when the original chassis type build is
Okay.
complete.
Yeah, my recollection is Josh said that we don't pay until we pay on delivery,
Okay.
which I was a little surprised at.
That as was I.
You were in that
Yeah, and this,
conversation.
Yeah, or at least that's what I recalled.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
wanted to double check that
No,
that was true.
that's-
'Cause-
and that's the same as the fire truck, actually.
No, I
Like,
remember
the-
this conversation about the fire truck. I was like,
Maybe.
wow, that's great, they let you build it on spec.
I
With
guess
the
they know
deposit.
that they can sell it.
Yeah, sorry, so, who made the motion?
So we, Fred,
I move.
Josh seconded.
Larissa
I
second.
seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks, York. And, update on road work?
Yeah, so, Josh and I chatted this morning. Well, first, he wants everyone to know that he's going on holiday from June 28th to July 5th.
Good for him.
So, I'm gonna just insert my own words, don't bother him. I think that's kind of what he said, but
Is
not
he
quite.
leaving the valley?
Yeah, he is leaving the valley. Is he throwing his phone in some lake?
Mad
Maybe.
River.
Possibly.
No, I just remember when he took a week off to go hunting, he spent the day at the covered bridge.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Josh cares, as we all know. I'll just say that, the culverts, the replacement's gonna wait till the fiscal year, because we're over budget for culverts. As we discussed earlier, he has to order several. And those are, in the next fiscal year budget. Josh is feeling pretty good about the current status of the flood-related work. A couple weeks ago, he was quite concerned, thinking it was gonna take multiple months to catch up. He's reined that back and is feeling more optimistic. He has one more day of work on Ralston Road, and then it should be pretty good. Sherman Road, there's still ditching, and then additional resurfacing is also planned. And the remaining tasks are pretty minor, with the exception of gravel resurfacing is planned on Sherman Road, Ralston Road, Butternut Hill Road, and a portion of Ski Valley Road. It's not urgent, but the goal is to complete the work in time for vehicle traffic to help compact the gravel before the winter plowing begins. I'll take a second right now to say because this is a good moment, our gravel supply is the lowest it's been Josh has ever seen. He thinks maybe he's optimistic that we're gonna be able to make it through till next summer. But that will, and it's on the budget for the fiscal year 27. And he said we're gonna see if we can make it. You know, I think if we have another major flooding event, that is highly unlikely. So Josh and I want that to be on the select board's radar, that even though it's for the fiscal year 2027, it is the lowest he's seen it.
So what's on the fiscal year for 2027 is bringing in the crusher and crushing.
That's right. Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's correct.
But we building the reserve, right? So we have
Yeah.
a reserve account for crushing, so,
And I think we have close to enough money.
yeah, this year's
Took us
fiscal year
Yeah,
26 reserve would get us to 30 grand, I think, in there, and
Yeah.
next year would
If
be
we-
another 15 to 45, and usually it's cost in the 30, historically it's cost in the 30 range.
Yeah, we have 36.7 and, yeah, for 2027. And we have 35 in reserve, so if we needed to bring in the crusher in the spring, we probably could do it, if they could do it.
Yeah, and that's basically what I asked Josh. I said, just make sure you keep us up to date. I mean, don't let it run out. If let's know the timeline, and if you know it's going to take 2 months from order date till they can get in, we need to be ahead of the ball. And so, and he will be. And if there's anything else you'd like to advise on that, just let me know. But it sounds like we can work with next spring if we need to. And I put just a little bit on guidance on responding to resident concerns of flood-related property damage. Hugh was, here earlier, very respectful. They all are, always appreciative of the road crew. I just wanted to mention that we get calls and emails and people coming in multiple times a day sometimes, still, since the flooding event, which was now several weeks ago. Just concerns about people's property, their driveways that have been washed away, huge amounts of money to repair culverts under the driveways or debris that's left in their yard, and so I just Josh and I work out what we say to people, and we're empathetic, and I mean, like all of us, we get it. The expense is huge, and so I just wanted to make sure I shared with the select board that we are hearing from a lot of residents their concerns about. I'll just say probably these increased flooding events that are leaving people nervous and aware that it's becoming financially difficult.
I was wondering, something.
You know, go ahead.
I was wondering if we could make maybe a section of the website or a page where we could both put updates to singular events that happen and also potential resources for people who have work they want to do or want to get funding, and that way it can save you a lot of staff time, and you can point them to that page or just send them back that link, and don't need to spend a lot of time on the phone or write a new email, because I don't see this going away anytime soon.
I kind of love that idea. I have not thought about it, and there's been multiple people that I've found the forms and showed them what they could fill out, with passive or whatever.
Yeah, you can kind of write a how-to.
That's a great idea.
So,
It could be there could be a news section that kind of, in the news section that kind of says, these are the roads we're working on this week.
still need to do these so that the people know it's coming, but yeah.
So,
I think that's good. I like that idea, Dave. When we talk about the work plan a little bit, it is complicated. Like I'm getting better at the website. If there's something set up on the website, I'm pretty good at doing it. But I ran into a problem last week where I was putting the agenda and the minutes in one of the commissions, but it's not set up through the back door like the select board is. And so that's something I can't do. And if it is possible, I definitely don't know how. So every part of the website's not created equally. Like they put a lot of intentionality into the select board part of the website. And so
Who
for
designs the website?
EcoPixel?
EcoPixel,
Okay. So
Yeah,
when you wanna
Pixels
make
are
a new
great.
page, you ask them for something? Is that how it works?
yeah, yes, and they're quite responsive, they're great. I just, I don't know what the costs are when I start asking for, can we make these other commission pages, is user-friendly to put in minutes, et cetera, as the select board. And I don't know what that looks like yet, but I could look into that, which is always a good idea.
I'll bother you about website stuff another time. 'Cause I know we gotta get.
I think it's a great idea, Dave.
Yeah. And then, well, so I was amazed at how quickly they did the slow road, they paved it.
Yeah.
How about, any updates on striping? And it does look like the crew got out and did the transition with all of the driveways
Yeah.
along the East Warren Road.
I hadn't realized that was road crew that was doing that, that was great.
Yeah, the road crew, like, they're so good. They're so fast, and we did have quite a few complaints about the steepness, the drop-off from the new paving into people's driveways. But Josh jumped on it quick with State Mat and the team, I mean, they were really efficient. Yeah, slow road was done, I think, in less than a day. Remarkable. Striping, we don't basically know yet, but Josh is working on when that's gonna happen. And I'll just add, since we're talking about striping, and Brian, Josh and I had a meeting, it looks like it's possible that if V-Trans can't do it, maybe we'll look into the stripers also doing the crosswalks along Main Street.
I really hate to pay for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do too.
I also hate to see people get hit by cars.
Yeah. And the street sweeping, York,
The street sweeping was done last Tuesday.
it wasn't a very good
I
job.
mean,
They didn't get
I-
down into some of the built up debris.
I think along the, what side? The east side,
Yeah.
like going down the hill. I think the problem honestly is there was 2 years of debris and it was a lot. He went over, like by the office, he went at least 2 passes. He was there literally all day. My hope is that V-Trans, and I keep trying to communicate with V-Trans and it's difficult, we'll still try to figure out if they could schedule to come through and maybe then we'd be getting closer to cleaning it up. There are spots there, I mean, it's way better than it was, it really is. I mean, it was so bad, walking down the street, you get grit in your mouth. So it's a huge improvement. He made so many trips to 2 sites, like we figured out with V-Trans to make a drop at their site, Pascasella, and then our town garage. And I don't know how many trips he took with that dumpster that would just drop all the debris, but it was a lot. It was a full day work and probably needed another half day.
Really quickly on the paving, have we heard from the new owners of the shopping center, post office area?
No, unless that happened the last couple of days with JB. I mean, we're coming close to that being finalized.
Okay.
It should be.
I don't know if they actually fully own it yet.
It seems like it got cut between in the transfer and neither of them, the seller didn't want to put any money into it, the buyer.
Doesn't
Did
actually
not.
have, well, and also doesn't have I was gonna say, doesn't have the authority to do anything about it right now.
I love when they do that, saying it's getting worse.
Oh my God.
Wicked.
It's,
So it'll eat your tire.
yeah.
It's almost as
The
bad as
slow
my
road,
bridge.
we're shaming them at least.
Oh, yes, yeah, by comparison.
I mean, let's just say, like, I sometimes think that they've heard it a lot, and then I'll hear from someone else that said, I wrote, Crosspoint, and said, this
Oh.
has to be fixed. I mean, it's a lot.
Crosspoint is in the
They've heard a
process of
lot.
selling,
Yeah,
they give 0 F's about that.
Josh is gonna be gone how long?
June 28th
1
to
week.
July.
1 week?
July 5th.
Yeah, it's like a week.
Yeah, I'm always
And he
about-
already has a whole plan. I mean, he has it totally worked out, so like right now, he knows what he's doing, and he already has expectations for what the road crew will do while he's gone, that they'll be able, that they'll be good at doing without him. Some of it's ditching, et cetera.
We'll just
I'm
do an
sure-
anti-rain dance. Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sure, I'm just thinking contingency plans, what happens if the heavens open up again?
Well,
they
no,
want
he's
to
not
do.
worried because it's before July 11th. We talked about it. He said, "Don't worry, I'll be back by July 11th."
God,
He did say that. I
seriously.
think he thought he was funny, to be honest.
Remember the one flood, June 27,
Yeah. No, I just,
97?
I like contingency
Yeah.
plans, that's,
Well, I feel like in the past, haven't they had sort of somebody who's on call or
Yes.
something like that?
is there?
I don't know if
is
that's
someone-
true this
Oh,
time.
they have it on call, but there's only one Josh Rogers.
Josh, that's
True
what I'm sort
story,
of
yes.
alluding to.
Is, and what, you know what the status of Jason's injury is?
He hasn't, no, I mean, he's in a lot of pain. His appointment is, the soonest appointment, earliest appointment he can get is almost the end of June. So until then, we don't really know. Yeah, no, I mean, he's in a lot of pain. It was a really tragic injury, honestly.
Was it, sorry, I've been out of the loop, is it work related or?
It was
Yep.
during flood recovery.
And workman's comp it took a while, like we did it right away, but we just finally heard from them on Friday with some forms to fill out. And I'll just say in terms of Jason, us, at least the town staff, were like, we are not gonna not pay him. Like, he is going to have a full paycheck every week. And that has been, because looking through Passif's material makes it sound like that should not be the case. Because I've been looking through their very large workbook on workman's comp. But so far, he has gotten full paychecks.
He had his head hit the top of the equipment and did some neck damage.
Yeah.
On the common road.
Basically, the road gave way, Chotch.
Like
The
underneath
road
them.
gave way and it bolted him up is the story that he has told us, Larissa.
Anything else, York, with flood recovery or
Nope.
road crew?
No, I just think everyone also was really happy with Pike. I think Charlie Goodman thinks they probably were the best, it was the best paving that's been done during his tenure. He was just really happy with every part of it, from the sales to the foreman, and et cetera. And it certainly looks good.
It was super smooth from my perspective too.
It was fast, I'm
Yeah,
guessing
I
we're
was
getting positive
amazed.
feedback
We
from the
kept going,
community.
Speeding.
We kept saying, wait, they did all of the one side of East Warren Road today?
Yeah.
There were some complaints about their drivers speeding around town, and there were some complaints about the flagger sending people down the wrong lane, and the guy in the steamroller thing didn't like that.
I was there. I was there for that. Josh and I were talking, and Josh and I were like, this guy, like, it was offensive the way he was treating drivers. It was. And Josh went and talked to the foreman, and he fixed that.
I think the
Like,
flaggers are a
it was actually,
separate.
it was
Yeah,
pretty
company.
obscene.
they're-
Flaggers are a sub.
Flaggers are a
Sub,
separate entity
Yeah.
than the.
My favorite was.
Yeah, it wasn't the
flagger.
flaggers. It was the guy in the steamroller or whatever it's called.
Flagger.
But it was the flaggers
Stop
who
Yes,
sent
sign up
the
to me
cars
and
towards
was
the
going like
steamroller.
this.
Yes, that's correct.
It's a
At
stop.
any rate,
Like, do you do the other one?
it's done, and I'm gonna start working on the paving grant process this week,
Cool.
which, is, I think it's about 160-ish thousand.
Yeah.
Anything else on roads? Great. So next item is General Wade House. At our last meeting, we discussed, and I have consistently raised the concern about charging more to rent the unheated commons, uncovered or open common space than the office space. And at the last meeting, Anne Marie Harmon said that that was a decision that came from the select board. I think that was the original decision. I'm not sure if that's not my recollection necessarily, but I think the original intent was to not charge rent, but to charge, to discourage the use of that space.
Right.
We then decided to allow the use of the space and never adjusted the rents accordingly. And would hope to see those lowered. We asked the General Wade House Commission if they had a recommendation on it, because the rents were originally intended to cover the operating costs of the building. And I don't think, because the common space was not included, we weren't intending on renting that, that wasn't included in the calculations. Are you still on the White House Commission?
Quasi.
Because you've
It wasn't,
threatened.
yeah, I have threatened heavily to leave, but I still work on it, so.
So, I don't know, York, do you have any
Anyway.
update? Maybe I should,
Well, I know that the commission didn't take up the subject.
okay.
The original 150 per square foot was intended to discourage male use of the area, and that problem has been cleared up. So I could see where we could adjust that rent down.
Yeah.
I'd advocate that.
What is the office, is that 125?
125. So that's unheated out there.
How
Would
about,
a
how
buck,
about cutting it in half and going to 75?
about a buck.
I'd
Do I hear a buck?
Say 50 or 75.
That seems like that's not much difference between 125 for the indoor heated space versus $100 for the,
I like 50 or 75 as well.
yeah, it's-
We're talking 50 or 75 cents per
Square foot.
square foot. Okay, sorry, just making sure that I'm.
But then again,
Hearing
they've
the same
also
units.
increased their square footage of what they're using out there now. Previously, they were only using, the whole space is 270 square feet.
So what do we want to do? Make a motion?
So the total area that they're using out there is now 270 square feet. You want to divide it in half between the path and the Friends of the Mad River and charge them $1.75? Is that what we're talking?
Like 75.
that's more.
Excuse me.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
wait a
that's
second.
I stand corrected.
So right now,
With the increase, or?
so right now the cost is $405 a month when they split it?
Mhm.
Okay, and so if we,
You said it's 270.
270 times $1.50 per square foot, right?
Sounds right.
That's what it,
I'm
are you
not-
talking about what it
not
currently
screwing up
is
too bad.
versus?
I understood there would be no math.
Same things.
No, and then, I think 75 is good personally.
Yeah.
Because charging 50 cents brings the rent down to $135, split two ways.
Yeah, so if we do 75 cents a square foot, I'd make a motion to reduce the rent on the
That's
storage space to 75
$202.50.
cents a square foot, down
I
from
second.
150.
Are you second?
Second.
Discussion?
Did you just, please add the
I have a
number of
discussion.
square feet?
Is there a new number of square feet? Sorry, I missed that.
For a total of 270 square feet split
270 square
between
feet.
two tenants.
Yeah.
Second.
York had.
Oh, so, yeah, and I can anticipate, York, go ahead.
Well, I think the garbage cans are in there, but besides that, yeah, I mean, the space is used. I don't remember, but I recall someone at some point, so I'm just relaying this information, saying something about back, like they had been paying $1.50 since January, and then if there was an interest in doing anything about that, or just keep that, and then start with a new rate moving forward. That's just a question in terms of January till July or June, whenever this would take effect.
Seems like, did we
think
put
that
the
would
original
that would
lease
make
in
us do
front
a
of people
refund?
like
Yeah.
let's have it
6
effective
months
now.
prior, then no one signed it, and didn't we have a big gap where we were saying we're raising rent and nobody
Had a signed lease.
signed the lease?
Yeah, it was.
And we weren't charging them the higher
No,
lease
we did.
starting in January.
And they paid back rent, I think. I believe.
be in favor of just starting now. Well, unless that's gonna cause huge,
At least we've corrected it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it was a bit of an oversight on our part,
What was?
the not, sort of adjusting our expectations, but not adjusting the rents accordingly.
I can go either way, if you wanna do it retroactive or.
I mean, it's mathematically simpler to just change it right now, I recognize that, but I also, like, math is a nuisance, and like, they have a very tight budget, and they're getting a lot less funding right now because of the funding climate.
The taxpayers have a certain expectation from us.
I understand.
So we have a motion and a second, we can amend it or vote on it.
So I think we've agreed that, or I think I understand that we're in agreement about the 75 cents.
Yes.
It's,
Well, we haven't voted yet.
oh, okay, but we're informally in agreement
can we vote on
without
that
having
motion
voted.
and then vote
I was gonna say,
separately,
can that be a separate
separately
thing?
on
Yes.
whether we refund?
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so all in favor of reducing rent 75 cents?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Somebody wants to make a motion like retroactive? We can do that.
I feel like I am alone in my desire to do this, and I will defer to the will of the board. Okay.
Sometimes you lose votes, Larry.
I know.
So we have a couple items off the consent agenda. As far as the minutes, I was okay with them.
What did so Alice had an amendment?
Alice said, in page 54, lines 34, 36, they have been learning that what would be necessary if the bridge needs to be closed, and adding, changing to where, and it says, and Ms. Peel explained that a temporary bridge would likely be available for installation cost plus an additional $2,000 per month. Changing that to, and Ms. Peel explained that a temporary bridge could be installed if one is available from V-Trans. The town would need to pay for the installation a monthly rate of approximately $2,000 per month. That's the one change. Any other changes in minutes?
Yeah, the important thing was temporary bridge installed if available,
Yeah.
if one is available. Previously, it sounded like it was available, and we do not know that.
Yeah. So with that, is there a motion for the minutes, for that change?
I'd move to advance the minutes
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
as edited.
As
amended.
Yeah. It's amended. And
Okay,
then-
yeah, I got that, thanks.
And then, York, the update on the Aegis, the solar maintenance?
Well, is there, so do you want me to read this part from them, or Chach, do you wanna, point out what you found? I just wanna make sure I don't forget to hear what you found so that we can get back to them with that.
Sure, just their compensation schedule had a much larger markup on the apprentice electrician subcontracted.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Which just looks weird. Everything else is cost plus 25%, and that one's cost plus 55%, which made me think it's a typo.
You're good
This is
at
page
that.
42.
You're really good at that.
Yeah, it's page 9 of their contract 42 of our packet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Why wouldn't
um,
why wouldn't
Yeah, why wouldn't
electrician
apprentice be more,
so
yes,
much more?
that, correct, yeah.
They just basically sent a little update. I'm happy to just read it. It's a couple paragraphs if you'd like. They installed it in 2014, as we know. The energy generated from the solar arrays applied to the town utility accounts in predetermined order, town office first, as well as the Waitsfield school. For the town accounts, the energy generated appears as a credit and correspondingly reduces the individual monthly bills. As the largest town adjacent energy user of the Waitsfield School, part of the HUUSD, receives a relatively significant share of the total energy credits generated, especially during the summer, and as part of an agreement repays the town 90% of the value of the credits. They believe on a quarterly basis. I'm partially reading this because I know Dave and maybe Larissa, this is new to you as well.
Yep.
Yes.
As the town of Wright has passed the 10-year mark of operation, an initial 6 cents per kilowatt hour solar adder credit for 10 years is no longer applied. So the revenue generated is less than in past years. Everyone's familiar with that? Individual components of the system, notably the inverters and solar panels, have individual equipment warranties 10 and 20 years respectively. But annual service costs for equipment replacement have been really low. But there may be a need to think about including the maintenance service costs for the array in town budgets moving forward. AGIS may be able to provide some recommendations or estimates of costs, especially after completing their annual service. So that's what they just wanted to. The reason I thought of pointing it out is because I didn't know if we all knew that the 6 cent was going to be dropped because we just hit the 10 years. I don't know what that equals, but my guess is a lot of money. Chach probably knows that off the top of his head. And then the annual service cost, now that we're getting over 10 years old, is something just maybe that was worth highlighting.
York, that's not in the packet, right, that email?
I just got that today.
Okay, can you just share that with us? Thanks, so I can carry some of that more detailedly.
How time sensitive is this?
Oh, they are very anxious. Like, as in, they've sent many emails in the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, it's in the packet, it's in the meeting packet. The select board's gonna discuss it. If there's any problem, I'll let you know Tuesday morning, otherwise you can look for a signed contract. But yes, I guess it's time, apparently, I know.
So what do we wanna do about the 55%?
I think we should ask them to change it to 25%. It makes,
Yeah, can you call them,
No
say,
sense
can you
that-
change this, or we can send back an executed copy with it
Changed,
yeah.
and initialed?
yep.
And I don't think their other points are valid, and I'm glad they're pointing them out, but I don't think that impacts this service agreement or maintenance contract,
Yeah.
right?
Is
Just
there a
giving us
way?
Heads up that
No, sorry.
expect some more cost
Mhm.
than you've seen, because we haven't seen much at all to date, which is typical, but inverters are starting to get near their end of their useful life.
Is there a way to approve this if they amend it to 25, and if they think it's right, then we don't? Or should we just have it come back in 2 weeks?
I mean, we can, if we think it's a typo, which I think we
Yeah.
think it is, we can manually amend it, initial it, and approve it as amended. Or,
That's what I think. we should do.
Okay,
That's-
I'm good with that, that sounds good.
and then if they have issues with that, then they can come back in 2 weeks, I don't know.
They have just signed it, so.
Okay, but we can,
No,
Yeah.
I
we
didn't.
can scratch
I
out.
didn't, was it in the packet with the warning, the warrants, York?
Yes,
Okay,
it should be.
We'll look for it. So is there a motion to approve the contract with the amendment that the apprentice electrician should be plus 25, not plus 55?
Yes. Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So we should make that change.
Yes. Who is going to make that change?
I will.
I can make
Okay,
it as
I was
it
gonna
comes
say-
around.
Yeah.
I find that saying who it, yeah, we should,
looking
yes,
for
but
it.
like designating
That's the
a
peril of just
specific-
flipping to the back.
Yes.
We
And
can find it, Fred.
I hope it's in the warrant. I think I coded it a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, so hopefully it's in there.
The select board roundtable, I'm just being mindful of the time.
Work plan review?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
sorry.
okay, I was like,
Yes.
I mean, we can do roundtable, but.
No.
Okay.
Marissa, do you wanna,
Here's-
for yours?
These were in the warrants packet, but if anyone wants them, I think these are printouts.
Yeah, I printed copies for everyone. I did make a couple of changes.
Great.
Fred wrote me, and he was right. Even though I had Meadow Road Bridge written all over, it's not technically on that work plan. It's on mine online now, Fred, ever since you wrote me.
I've
You were right.
got a,
I'm
I've
sorry,
got a live
this is
version
what?
of it. Thank you.
What's that?
What was this now?
Meadow
You wrote about the work plan
Oh,
having Meadow
yes.
Road
Okay.
on it, and it was I think it was somewhere down below, but it wasn't like one of the main things, and so I did add that.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Oh wait, oh no, the recording, is it recording?
Yep.
No, it's recording,
It is.
okay, sorry.
So, Larissa and York, you guys put together the format, platform, and then York made the changes, really just bringing forward what was in this old spreadsheet into this new format.
And then adding a few things that were sort of, that I compiled from hearing from different people about priorities that they wanted to consider having addressed. Do you need another, oh, this is a pencil.
I got it.
You got it, okay. And then I think the current sort of incarnation of this platform that we have set up right now, it's the free version while we figure out whether or not this actually works. And
I've been having emails back and forth. There was some more confusion, but we're good.
There is, oh no.
Like with
Yeah,
your
it's
account?
okay.
Well, because
Yeah,
it
it's-
sounds as if this was a resource that Annie used at one point, but that we were unaware of, and so there was, yeah, I think.
It's mixed in with some other users. It's caused a lot of confusion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Frustrating.
Yeah, so it's set up very similar to the Excel sheet. You can click, if you open up the actual digital version, which you all have links to, you can like click cybersecurity, and cybersecurity will then drop down a menu where like there's other options. And you can push the comment, like next to digital signature for warrants, you can push the comment, and Larissa, for example, made a comment that says, I think we figured this out. And then if you look over at the status column, like now I click done, because you know, we've done it, we figured it out through Adobe
Which one did you say
Acrobat.
had the comments? I don't see it.
So if you, anything that has, there are those little like bubbles to the right of the text. If there's a comment, it would be left there,
I
so
got it.
some of them have a little bubble with like a number 1 or something like that next to it.
So what I envisioned for this is I didn't want to fill out priorities, because that's not my call. So essentially, you all can figure out, you know, go through it, figure out priorities. I can mark our priorities, or Larissa can also. We can also prioritize the sub-items, for example, using the cybersecurity one as the example of .gov email, select board server access, Microsoft 365 for protection, etc. And then it's really easy to add. Again, the main issue with that, although I think it's a good thing in terms of open meeting laws, is as of now, Larissa and I are the only two with access to work in the document. Everyone else has access to view the document. So if you like this, you know, Dave could write me and say, hey, can you put in A, B, or C under this section? And then I could easily do that.
There is also a way, so I mean, there's a shareable link that's kind of unlimited, any number of people can see it. There's also code that you can use to embed it into our website if we want this to be something that's accessible on the website, just as a, if that is
But
an option.
fixing it to have a login where we all can view it with all the
That's
comments.
Right, yes, that's the thing we would just
You
need
should
to.
be able to view it now.
So, but you can't view comments though. We just
Oh, you
discovered.
can't view comments?
You can't. I just discovered that.
That's
We're learning.
interesting.
That's why I was like, what?
Okay, that explains it, okay. Okay, that's interesting.
This is a novel platform to me that I'm still learning about.
Well, I have a meeting with one of the representatives, I think, it's either next week, it was just set up today. And so these are some things that I can ask also.
Yeah,
I mean, overall, I really think it's comprehensive for me and intuitive, which I quite like.
I agree, and it's much more closer to how I would handle things, which is a big thing that I need to get done, and then if there's multiple steps, and some of those multiple steps have multiple steps and things I need to get done, and you can assign the really urgent sub-steps high priority, even though you know this thing is a month away or 2 months away. So that makes sense to me.
Could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
If you're doing the live version,
Okay.
could you scroll down to Conservation, Climate, and Natural Resources? It's pink.
Yep,
And Overlay District.
yep.
Can you view the files that I attached on the far right? Those are all files
It
that
has it shows names of them, but it is not.
you're not able to view them.
Let's see, hold on, let me see if I can.
It's just, those are all, I was just trying it out to see how that feature worked, and those are all documents that JB sent us.
So it looks like I have to go up to the upper right to the three dots and click open file, and let me see if that works.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, in short, okay, so there are limitations to this. Okay, bummer. All right, well, we're learning, but if nothing else, we can, I think, work through what the priorities are. I also, as people were bringing things up, I added a little category that was like, for future consideration. We haven't necessarily put it on the plan, but people have mentioned it, just so that it doesn't get lost in,
I'm gonna do a deep dive on open meeting stuff
Yeah.
also. This cannot be that no collaborative work tools can be used.
I would love if you were up for
I'm gonna work on that.
diving in on that, because every bit of reading that I've done, I've been like, really, we're not allowed to do that? That seems silly, but I don't know.
So how do we wanna move forward with this? Should we do homework with this? Or do you wanna start walking through it today?
I mean, the hope was that we'd start walking through it
Yeah.
today, because we've like punted a
Yeah.
bunch of times. It's not,
I mean,
go ahead, York.
no, it's, I mean, if Larissa really wants to leave in 5 minutes, it means we're doing it without Larissa, but she has access, so
But
she'll see, like, I'll
exactly.
make comments while we're going and filling it in. I think it's a fine alternative, now that I think we really have printed copies, viewable online, for everyone to go through and if you want to make priorities and then come back, in 2 weeks, but I leave that to you guys, obviously.
I think I would be in favor of making a first pass through, and I do have to.
I mean, I'm driving 4 hours
Yeah,
after
yeah,
this,
sure.
so
Yeah.
whenever I leave,
Yeah, I got it.
yeah, so.
How do you gain access to that?
There was an email sent by Larissa.
I sent an email
before the
earlier
meeting.
today at like 3 something that included a link.
I'm just saying we need to figure out the.
Okay, got it.
Like if you're gonna be using the comments and files, which seem really useful, we just need to be able to figure out logins to be able to view those.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, that's a big, I did not know that limitation, and that would be a big deal maybe.
Maybe next time we talk soon, we can figure that out. Or get a select board login with view privileges.
Yeah. And that could maybe be the second user for now.
Yes, correct.
So how, do we wanna start going through it now?
I'd be,
Sure.
yeah.
So town operations, the first category. How were you thinking about priority? High, medium, low?
I mean, there's high, medium, low, critical as the default. There's also a place where we can put
You're good, certainly.
like due date or like deadline.
Those are separate fields, right?
Correct. So I feel like cybersecurity is existentially pretty high priority right now, given the most recent
Yes.
developments. So, I mean, the .gov emails, York, I think you've already gotten the ball rolling on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of this, again, like a lot of things are gonna be about cost, you know? Like cybersecurity, we can go from what we're doing now, and we can go to really high cost, and then somewhere in between. Like changing to Microsoft 365, I think is a definite that we need to change to. That's gonna be a heavy recommendation. And then, and we should do that in parallel with changing to .gov. So .gov, we're not gonna put .gov with GMABT. Like we'll do that all at the same time and merge it. I mean, the question, since that's probably my top priority that I'm doing right now, is whether Brian and I had conversations about whether the select board would like to have a select board email. And you can see positives with that for sure in terms of, you know, if Brian has an email account and it's just select board and then he leaves the select board someday and someone takes his place, you have all the institutional knowledge
I think we should
built in.
definitely have that.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, it means you guys have another email, on and on and on and on. So there's pluses and minuses, and there's a cost to it. There's $5 or $7 a month or something per user. But again, that's an example. Is it worth it? I think it might be. Do you want to have another email address? That's up to you. But yes, the
I already have
benefit of
plans
having
on
that
that, so-
knowledge would be huge.
Basically, shouldn't be an option. If you're on the board, you need that.
Yeah,
I agree.
You have that. That is your email.
yeah.
Just a quick suggestion, so, should we go through and maybe, especially if Larissa has input on things you think, because if it's not high or critical, we can deal with it at the next meeting and explain the details. But if you have strong feelings or other people have, we can go through without doing too much detail, then we can kind of take a first pass at this, have it available to look at, figure out the login thing, and start working on the critical things if
I
they're.
agree. My hope was to have some direction for the next 2 weeks, which I might have already with what we just talked about. But yes, I agree, Dave. I think that's a good idea.
That sounds good to me.
Excuse me.
Is there anything in the town meeting prep that people think is critical?
You know, it's critical, but it doesn't have to happen until
December.
February.
I guess that's a good.
Well, I mean, there's certain budgeting and capital budget and all that is critical, but it happens in December or January.
So the first thing that has to happen if we were to put a date, is the date completed or date that we?
So that's one of the things I'm looking at. You can do sort of like a timeline versus a due date, and the sub-tasks can have their own separate priorities and deadlines as well.
Yeah, and I believe town meeting prep, I mean, there's the standard town meeting prep, but we had talked about
Forming a subcommittee and
getting a
stuff like that.
subcommittee to really boost turnout.
Yep. And I've talked to the PTA about that at our last meeting as well. And,
Getting childcare, getting
they want to be involved, so.
coffee, food.
What I talked to them about at the meeting was potentially doing a survey of the school people, and we kind of thought maybe we could do a townwide survey that then the school could also send out, where we could ask people if they would attend, be more, would you attend this, and we could see what the numbers say. And I don't know, we could look into helping design that and trying to see if there was a significant difference.
So that, I mean, it seems like it would be easy to have a lot of high priorities. If we're thinking about this as being through next year, through March of next year, it would be a high priority, but the date would be.
Not
out.
so.
We had September.
I really like-
We had September as like really
Start
getting
thinking about it.
going.
For
And
forming subcommittee, which is subtask of town meeting prep, I've put date September 1.
I think that's right. Back to school.
So there's a timeline column now, which I just added.
Ooh, nice.
And the timeline's really cool. I think it speaks to what, Dave and Brian, your conversation would just, it'd be a way to be like, yeah, it's a high priority, this is a high priority, but we have this for September and this for November.
Got it.
And so, I think that will really be helpful. Like, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna move town meeting prep. Did you say September?
Yep.
Like, maybe I'll say well, for now, for fun, I'm gonna put September 16th, but.
All this other stuff, I guess I would put medium, and let's discuss it next time for the town meeting.
Yeah, and if we leave it in
Sub-items?
gray, it's just like
If you
it
just leave it in
hasn't
gray?
been, yeah.
Yeah.
The flood recovery stuff, I think that's for you to work on when you have time, York. Pretty good, so. Anything super critical in the budget and financial planning section?
Well, as far as the staff issues go, I think that's also just gonna be a conversation around when we do our budget next year.
Oh, you're back up in
Yeah,
town
sorry.
staff, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I think the town staff succession planning is more, for me, that was specifically Jen said, so I'm done in 5 years, you know that, right? No, so you guys should start planning now. I was like, all right, noted.
So when is 5 years, 2020?
I mean, this was a while ago. So this isn't even necessarily something that's for this year. It's just let's put this on the radar so that.
We should at least know when that date is.
Sure.
Sounds like 2029 maybe.
Because in emergency management, you also have advanced planning if we have an emergency and people aren't there, who's gonna back up whom. I thought that's what this was.
The succession planning for
Yeah.
town staff, sure, it can be that also, but that was specifically why it arrived on the work plan, was because I know that more than one member of staff has made noises about wanting to have an off-ramp of some sort.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I just added that, Brad, that's a really good idea.
And you want someone in to be trained.
yes, exactly, that it would be great if we didn't have a vacancy for a year or more.
You're
On
funny.
on the emergency, 5 seconds, is there a place where residents can go to look and see who they should call and what they should do in case of emergency? I think you might have mentioned something about it.
We have it in our emergency plan, but the last I knew, it's not on our website.
Okay, I think
Something that we were gonna talk about.
okay, that's a,
We need an active button on the front page for emergency management.
I agree.
And then the emergency management page needs to get fleshed out more. Right now, the only person that's on it is either Claire or Alice. I'm not even on it. They dropped my name off of it for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fred, if I would love to sit down with you and go through it and see what it would look like, and then let's build it so it's the best it can be. I think that's really important too.
let me know when you wanna do it.
Seeing the
Let
live
me-
updates.
Let me know when.
Website, are there live updates?
I'm gonna add.
Local emergency management plan to town website.
Ellie,
Excellent, thank you.
Fred, even if that, if you'd like to sit down with me and us do that when I get back early July, I mean, that's a
Okay.
while away, and we could start it before, but that would be really great, I think.
Yep, be very excited to do it.
Any of the budget and financial planning stuff we need to talk about right now?
Yeah, we, the health insurance options, we had talked about looking into, it's kind of tied up with our personnel policies. At one point, Christine said that she might still look into options, even though did she tell you that, Margie?
Her and I talked about it. She said this summer she would maybe be willing to come in and spend, because she really understands it well, spend some time looking into if there's better options.
I think it also might be.
And I would probably take you up on that.
We also have some local residents who work in the health insurance sector who might be able to informally advise on what the fuller landscape looks like.
Excellent.
And if you would like,
Expertise always welcome with, right?
yeah.
Is this, talking about like a change in provider, or is this more our internal policy tied to our handbook except on
I
what we offer to our staff?
think,
Yes.
think, yes.
Yes, the latter, or yes,
it's
the?
about-
Yes,
it's
see all of the
more-
above, yeah.
Right now, the biggest part that we're talking about, I think, right now is we get ours always through VLCT. And we assume it's the best. A lot of other, at least states around the country, towns that I've worked with, you don't assume that's necessarily the best rate because it may not be. So just doing our homework, and it really goes a lot with in terms of the contracts section.
Yes.
Under town operations, and we have contracts that we just have rolling for years, and is it our responsibility to put those out to bid? I think it might be. It doesn't mean we're gonna make a change, it just means we're being responsible for the town.
Yeah.
And I think this health insurance is similar.
Right.
That's the way I view it.
We also talked about our banking system, figuring out if there was if that made the most sense at one point,
We were
I
gonna go out
think.
to bid.
Putting that out to bid. You mentioned cleaning
Cleaning, yeah,
services.
we spend a lot of money on that.
Yeah, so I think doing sort of a re-examination of our contracts and making sure that we're spending taxpayers' dollars as efficiently as possible would be great.
In health insurance, there are options even through VLCT. And
That's right.
Some municipalities will, we don't do a high deductible plan. Some municipalities do a high deductible plan and then contribute to an HSA to cover
Right.
some of the deduction.
Mhm.
And I don't know how that would play out in the budget.
Yeah, and I think that's an example, that's another good example of what Christine and I had talked about.
So I mean, that would be great. Is it as urgent as other things?
I mean,
What's
Good to
the,
have it for
there's
next
a
budget.
annual renewal that I'm guessing is kind of
the
January 1, but.
open enrollment usually starts in October, if I remember correctly, for
Right.
at least
The exchange.
for the
The
exchange.
exchange starts in November.
Yeah, this is
Or
different, like,
December.
our dental starts in July 1.
Okay,
I don't know, because there are rate changes.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna change that right now.
yeah.
Probably.
So.
So that one, maybe like town meeting prep where if the
That is changed, that is
enrollment period
exactly.
is 9 months away, it probably doesn't need to be
Yeah.
top priority today.
And then, another one that's kind of been hanging around is the cemetery trust investment policies, which it seems as though we,
I spent a long time talking to Bob Cook about it, and I personally feel like it makes a lot of sense. Well, Steve and I both did, and
What
it
makes
seems
sense?
very logical, and they figured out a new system
Yes.
that they started several years ago. There was too much information that was lost, and so there had to be a new way to start over. And that's basically what Bob Cook did, and to me, it's logical, and there was no way to do anything except make your best guess of what was in one box and what was in another. I'm drawing a blank, what's the name of when you can't use money? Or, it starts with P.
I have no idea what you're
So they
talking
didn't
about.
know,
I'm
they
sorry.
didn't know
No, I
what
know
the
what you're
basis
talking about,
was.
but
They
not
had-
coming to me.
Can you put money into your
Sounds
grave? It has to last forever. Like that
Perpetual.
grave's gonna be taken care of
Perpetual.
forever.
Perpetual.
In perpetuity?
No,
In
it's called-
perpetuity, thank
Okay.
you.
It's called perpetual
So-
care. It's called perpetual
In
care.
perpetuity, we didn't, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Perpetual
Fred says
care.
perpetual care, I
And the
believe.
Yeah,
cemetery
in
commission
per-
is now, we should maybe get an update before we decide whether any changes are necessary. Because, we made a commitment to the cemetery commission after the changes to the trust fund policies were made. So,
And then quickly on commissions, if we have ones that are still empty, that people aren't just running up to us to fill, should we advertise those?
yes.
We need like an animal control officer too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, advertise open positions and commissions.
We do it on Front Porch Forum, but sometimes when we don't fill them, we're not consistent in, keeping it out there.
Just to add to
Yeah.
the town office.
Laying open positions. Before I depart, which I'm gonna do momentarily here, I just wanted to float an idea, because I feel like a lot of policies and ordinances either need to be reviewed or drafted anew. I think that it might be worth seeing if there's a group of folks who want to do that. That is not just us, but I mean, I was doing a little bit of reading and having sort of like a policy and ordinance drafting committee is not unheard of. I
Yep.
don't know if that's something that might, but I know that like short-term rentals are, I don't think that we can just sit around and wait for the legislature to do something about it or Warren to do something about it. I feel like we're gonna have to come up with something at some point, maybe that's just me, but regardless, I think it would be great to have some group of folks,
Is that
We
on
know,
here
if we
somewhere?
took one or two every meeting,
policy and.
we could knock them out. And it'd be our ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay,
If we did one or two every month, we eventually would work
Okay.
through them.
that's also totally valid,
And then it's ours.
okay,
I think it's short term.
I think that the exception is the short-term rental policy is gonna be very complicated, and every month we wait, it gets more complicated. And so that one might take some stakeholders
ordinances and
and,
policies, yes.
Yeah, it's gonna have a lot of public interest. But I
yeah,
think
so
it should be a
I
high
agree
priority.
with Brett.
Along with the housing development, probably. We'd also have
Yeah.
some public interest.
Well, and then to add this third with a lot of public interest that I think is a very high priority is infrastructure funding options.
Yes, I agree. And that somewhat ties with the SIP planning,
So maybe
the
we
capital
need,
improvement plan.
yeah, so maybe we need a point person on each of those with the hope that we can bring in some others from outside to help.
I wonder if Jordan Conda wants to.
Infrastructure funding.
She's in her house, what's she got to do?
I know. She doesn't have 2 small children and like a very demanding job, but yeah, can't hurt to ask.
I don't understand infrastructure funding. Brainstorming.
So
We
the
have a mechanism for it.
Meadow Road Bridge, the town garage, the wastewater project, town infrastructure, that
Yeah,
seems to be a lot of replacements, costs looming
yeah.
that would require probably more than we have in our current capital improvement plan.
Oh, some of that's gonna have to be bonded for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's the brainstorm, is like,
Yeah.
what are our
Which
options
ones
to
we're gonna
pay
grab.
for all this stuff?
Another
That's
thing
com-
we can do for accountability and speed is assign 2 select board members to things, and they can, right,
Mhm.
they can badger each other, and communicate, because that's not.
Wait, so were those related comments? I'm sorry.
They were not.
Okay, I was like trying to figure out how those.
I think that's
okay.
really important.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and to that end, we've talked about it, and I don't think there's even, you know, equal support among the board, but I do want to explore what a local option tax would look like if it were dedicated for infrastructure, to have
Yeah.
people from, to have the people who aren't property owners, but are using the infrastructure to pay for it. So,
The last thing this place needs is another tax.
No.
We're taxed to death as it is.
well, I
I'm
think if
interested
you
in
could
exploring
really
it and finding out what other
relieve
towns are doing, and yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah,
you know,
to me, that's a way for us to share that cost burden with more users beyond just the
Correct.
property taxpayers.
You don't lower taxes by implementing a new tax. It's just not logical. But that's an argument we can save for another day.
I think one
There's
way-
I'll just say, Fred, there's multiple ways that the LOT can look. There's ways that,
A
like,
tax
you can tax
is a
everyone,
tax
and there's
is a
ways that you
tax.
tax just people that are visiting.
well, the tax pays for needs, and we have needs.
We don't need another tax. The state is overtaxed as it is.
I'd say-
People, when people come in to pay their taxes, it's the one thing they say, we're taxed too much. That's the one thing I hear the most from the people, is our high taxes. Instituting another tax
Yeah, I
isn't
think,
gonna solve it.
but one reason
If you
for
wanna lower
that,
taxes, you lower spending.
I think a reason people say that is we are providing a lot of the infrastructure for a much broader community. We're the commercial hub of the valley. So all our neighbors in Fishton and Warren and Moortown and elsewhere are using our infrastructure, as well as all the visitors to the valley, our tourist visitors. So it's over 30 other towns now, including every ski area town,
Yeah, we're the
have
only-
implemented this
I
as a
don't
way
care if we're
to
the
raise
only one that
revenue.
does it.
Well,
Heard, there are
Heard
definitely
you.
some strong opinions, and I think there are some big things that are, like, the town garage is falling apart. I think we're gonna have to figure out one way or another to pay for it, and I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's worth exploring what our options are.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't institute a tax to lower taxes. Just doesn't make sense.
well,
These
think-
people, if you're on the low end of the scale, you would understand better.
Oh,
I was gonna say, because I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. The
Yes.
topic is brainstorming. Brian threw out one idea, and I'm sure there are others, so if we let that process play out, I think we would benefit.
Thanks, Brian.
I do want to make sure that we remember, and Larissa just brought up the town garage. I think Taylor said to me when I had lunch with them last week, he said, I'm pretty sure there was a moment when it was raining outside, it was raining harder on the inside of the town garage than outside. And, I mean, it is, in Josh's opinion and Charlie's opinion, and probably my opinion, a pretty top priority. There's
Yeah.
safety hazards in there, it's just not adequate.
Yeah.
So getting an RFP out soon should be a high priority.
Yes.
And we might want to even think about, is he gonna be on next year's town meeting agenda?
I think it can be.
Yeah. So, we'll have to- so do we
If
want
you-
to, with this, do we want to continue this conversation at the next meeting? In order to try to wrap up by 9?
I think so, I think
And
it's
since Larissa's
better
done
when
all
I
that-
was gonna say, I don't want you to feel as if you have to stop because of me, but I do realistically
Yeah,
have 4 hours to drive.
Travel safe.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for staying
Yeah,
for 20 minutes.
have a safe drive.
And
so we'll continue
see
this,
everyone soon.
well, with an updated version, York?
Yep, I'll keep working on it, I'll add to it, clarify things. I'll also work with Monday to see what we can talk about in terms of files and comments. I think Dave's looking into open meeting laws to see if there's some clarification on how this could be more handy. And if there's any way forward in terms of RFP for town garage, and there's anything I can, if you'd like me to start brainstorming what that RFP would look like.
I'll, I think I get you something to work from.
Okay, I think Josh and Charlie would very much appreciate.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So how about select board roundtable?
I'm okay.
I'm trying to think.
I don't know.
What do we know about the damage to the bridge, other than it got damaged? Do we know who?
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
that's on their report.
yeah, I mean, we could do it. Miles from Vermont Timber came out, recommended by the police officer, but, Officer Hart to, inspect it. He said there's no real damage to it except just the visible damage on those boards, and it's on Josh's,
Yeah, But
radar.
do we know who?
We believe it was a Home Depot truck. There is kind of an investigation, but I basically said to Officer Hart, in my opinion, like, he's already done some work, and he basically was like, if you wanna use your time for me to look into this, when there's probably, from his experience, not much that's gonna come of it, that's up to us, and he's already spent time on it, and I just felt like it probably, given what his conversation was about what it would look like moving forward if we found someone, it didn't look very promising. However, moving forward to make sure it doesn't happen again is probably, something that we're all
Yeah.
aware of and think that it's time. And I'm still waiting for plans for Miles for at least the west side of the Great Eddy Bridge, to try to detract people from, a header bar.
I would still like us to consider an ordinance of something like a select board can fine up to $15,000 for damage to town property. I'd like us to explore that.
Yeah, so just any,
Originally I said the covered bridges, and then I got thinking about it.
we
If
had to
someone-
track down the Meadow Road Bridge, somebody damaged that.
Exactly. So damage to any town property, select board can, fine the individual up to whatever we decide
Should,
and recoup some of these monies.
Okay?
we should talk to the LCT about that.
Be in favor of something like that.
Okay.
Because
Okay, now-
we do have to pay the deductible, which is $1,000 each time,
Yeah.
plus the TA's time. Yep.
Any other select board roundtable? There's a few other items you wanted to talk about, Fred, that fall into the town administrator's report.
And now I've lost my thoughts on that. I had the bridge. Oh, yeah.
So, York, your report?
hydraulic
Sure.
request form, Goodman's letter, and what I'm really concerned about is the letter we got from Vermont about the reappraisal. This is the third letter that I know of that we've got from them.
We did respond to the last one and told them.
We did.
That we had the money for an appraisal and that we were, did an RFP and that we were several years out. That we're just, there aren't appraisals. out
This is
there.
just an
Yeah.
automated letter and they didn't
Yeah.
adjust our status, do you know, York?
No, I mean, they never responded to the letter that we sent. That was about, what, 2 months ago, Brian?
Yeah,
And then this was the first thing that was just sent to me. I think, this was forwarded to me,
June-
I
June
think, from
1st.
Mary Jane.
Their letter was dated June 1st. I just don't want to get in trouble with the state.
Can we ring them up and say, hey, did you get our last letter?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
And is
I'll do whatever you guys want.
Is it acceptable?
yeah.
And is it acceptable to them? I don't want to see the town get in some trouble with the state over this.
Okay.
Anything
That's
else,
reasonable.
York, you ready for it?
And from me, I mean, let me look real quick if there's anything worth highlighting. We did, JP, John, and I did present to VCDP. I think our expectations should be pretty low, just judging primarily from what the USDA has said, after talking to VCDP. As in, we applied for $1 million, and so did many other places, and it turns out that they maybe only have 700,000 anyway. So that's a conversation for another day, but we took a lot of time creating that proposal, and then preparing the presentation. But our presentation was awesome. I did not include it in this because I couldn't get it small enough to include in the packet, and the website won't accept it. The RFB, I think that's pretty clear. I have submitted it to the state to see if we can get approved for a second permit at Carroll Road. If we were able to get that, then the grant that we have would fund that for a second RFB. I included a newsletter. This was part of the process of everything that came out of the cybersecurity incident. I'm gonna get that every month, and I think I'll just include that when it comes. And then the Waitsfield, the pilot community, 5 towns were asked to be part of this. There's no cost. But I think what we have to gain from it is more than nothing. JB and I were on a call this last week, just kind of seeing what the plan is. It's with Alex, who's doing the Irishville Master Planning, and then several other organizations, actually around the country. It's essentially to make a toolkit and a way to, it's really focused on economic development. I wish it was a little bigger than that, but it's a quick turnaround, will be done by the end of September. And I think it's really cool that they asked Waitsfield to take part, and it's gonna be a benefit for the town, I believe.
What does taking part mean? What's the commitment in terms of?
It's not much. I mean, there's different things that are expected, like there's the first, not expected, there's the first section that's like, okay, we're gonna try to figure out some economic, I can't remember off the top of my head. And he was supposed to share the slideshow, which I was gonna share, but he has not shared it yet. And then if you wanna go to the next step, you can do the next step, which is a little bit more of a commitment. But most of them, they really hold your hand in terms of each process, so it should be relatively straightforward. And then if there's something that's too much, we'll say, well, we did those first 2, we're not gonna move forward with this next part.
Your time commitment or any other staff time. It seems like this would be something to loop in Eric Freeman at the chamber to help with the conservation and recreation group who's been meeting.
Yeah, and I've been working, when we had that's just this first kickoff call, that's basically what I said. I said I would really like to include the stakeholders that are already working in this field and know about the trails that are getting the most, usage, et cetera. Like, I don't wanna recreate the wheel, that would be silly. There's a community that know this, and so bringing them in, it seems obvious to me, and so that's what I basically said, Brian, was what you just said. Yeah, I don't foresee there being too much time. And again, it's a quick turnaround, so I'm gone for half of it. Like they're doing a site visit, a half-day site visit that JB has on his calendar, third week in June, maybe that Wednesday.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
So I've always felt we should have a motion and a vote on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to advance the consent agenda.
Just a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All set? Motion to adjourn?
Can I just,
Yes.
did we clarify, did we find the aegis and amend the contract?
I didn't see it
I
in
didn't
there.
see it in here either. I don't know if it stopped somewhere along the way. but-
I'll take one more spin through.
I wasn't super thorough though.
Yeah. I didn't remember.
I didn't notice when I signed it, so.
I signed the,
There's one that has a
Deputy
stack,
Sheriff.
behind it, there's a stack of individual invoices.
Well, the alternative is, I don't quite understand why, the sheriff one's in there, right?
Yes.
I can't speak to why the aegis isn't in there.
Can we make
The
a motion
alternative
to
is-
have it happen and then signed electronically?
Well,
That
think
We did.
I could amend it.
Yeah.
I could amend it with Adobe and then send it out electronically.
Okay, did it require all signatures or just one?
Actually, no, it actually just requires my signature, actually. I think,
This is all
I don't know, I looked at it a couple weeks ago. Again, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I don't see it in here. It's over here. This is all work stuff.
Yeah, maybe that, would you get?
Well, I will get
I
it
did
and
not go through
then,
that thoroughly.
I'm available, I
Looks like
can,
more
if you
than
need
one
me to sign something, I'm here all week.
okay, well, let's, then we'll talk tomorrow and, that sounds good.
This is energy. It wouldn't be
Okay.
in this giant pile, right?
Take your glasses off, York, before you dive in this time.
Wait, what?
I said, take your glasses off
These
before
are
you
all
go back to
invoices.
the ocean.
Okay.
I barely had a chance today, preparing for meetings and this is a full day. But I did get to see my bird, so it was a win.
Unless it's in this giant stack, very well hidden, it's not in here.
Well, that's a little concerning, but, I'll make sure we do it tomorrow. And then Brian, if you need to sign it or you can't sign it, then we'll just do that and amend it.
Okay,
Okay,
so, motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Recording stopped.